Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to another fun-filled episode, one that I've been looking forward to for quite a while. I started the Johnny Brew Show in January of 2021, I think we're in. And before I even started, one of the first people I reached out to is somebody who I was talking to during election season and stuff like that, and we had not really a friendship, but gotten to know each other a little bit. And I said, hey, I'm going to start this thing. Will you come on? And she was like, yeah. And now, finally, 10 months later, we're going to get to talk to her. I've been, if you watch the show, you know I'm a fan of Katie Williams and also not a fan of some of the things that she's been doing lately. And I know a lot of our followers have got a lot of questions, and a lot of people want to know the differences from one year to the next, from candidate to trustee. And I asked Katie repeatedly to come on, and she is here to talk about all the drama going on at CCSD, to answer all the questions from both her supporters and her detractors, and to give us a little bit of an idea of what's really going on and why it's happening the way it's happening. So without further ado, Miss Katie Williams.
Yeah, thanks,
welcome.
John. Thank you. I'm glad to be on.
It's great. So first of all, you promised that because we're limited a little bit on time, we could have to hold it to less than 2.5 to 3 hours.
Back, I promise.
But so you're gonna have to come back, and I want to do a full bio, because I mean you've had quite an interesting life, from your military service to your you were a what is that called? Not a drama queen,
pageant queen.
A pageant queen. There you go.
I mean, yeah, a little bit of a drama queen, right?
No.
No. Women's drama.
No, we don't have any clips where I feel like you're a drama queen.
No.
I promise. But without the lengthy biography, tell us a little bit about you before your, quote, public life. I guess that would even be before your pageantry.
Yeah, so I was born in 1990, and I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. And so I lived there until I was about 13. Some people know this, some people don't, but my biological father had gone to prison. And then my stepdad adopted us and moved me out to Illinois. So I graduated high school in Illinois, joined the military there. Lived there for 15 years, deployed to Afghanistan, came back. I was a recruiter for the military for a long time. I'm still in the National Guard.
And you worked as a recruiter?
Yeah, I worked as a recruiter in Illinois and here in Nevada. And then in 2018, I got offered a job position here in Nevada as a recruiter, so I took it, and I came out here with my family.
Oh, so you were working for the military and serving in the National Guard.
So it's like an active duty military stint in the National Guard. So
like
I never
hybrid?
I never left the National Guard. You can go active duty in the National Guard, because even in your support roles, they have like those supporting active duty members that are there kind of helping the National Guard drilling soldiers.
And where did you serve before the National Guard? What branch was it?
So I'm in the Army National Guard.
In the Army National
Right,
Guard.
so like I've always been in the Army National Guard. So from 2007 until now. So.
And what was your specialty?
I was
besides recruiting.
Yeah, so I was originally recruited as a truck driver. So it's called an 88 Mike, and yeah, I know those big. So anything in the military with big old wheels, I can drive all of those. So
really,
I don't do much of it now. I've been in for 15 years.
Because we were watching Narcos the other day, and the undercover cop had to get behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler, and he had no idea what to do.
They're honestly very easy. Most of them are push button starts. They're not. There's not like it's not like the 80s where there was like the
triple clutch.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore.
Could you drive it though with double clutch?
I probably could. Yeah, I mean I haven't, but I actually didn't learn how to drive a manual vehicle until I was 19. I was actually in Afghanistan. So.
And did you drive stuff like tanks or anything?
No.
Those
are tracked vehicles. We don't drive those. So
you were road vehicles.
I was.
But heavy haulers.
Yeah.
You drove some Hummers?
I did, yeah.
All decked out in your camo,
so
driving a Hummer?
when I was deployed, I was a driver for most of it. I got to be a gunner position for a while. I worked on a personal security detail.
Were you on a gunner on a vehicle?
Yeah,
like
a couple times.
Mounted?
Yeah, for about 2 months I was assigned as one. Yeah, so because when you're in the military, generally.
What are you, 5'1"?
I'm 5'3".
100 pounds?
I'm 5'3". I think at the time I was about 115 pounds. I'm 130 now, but
right.
So
that's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I was 18, 19 years old when I deployed. came home when I was 19. Actually, September 11th of 2009 is when I came home. So that was kind of like a big deal for some reason. I don't know why, but it's been a while since I've been home. So.
And I'm sure you've seen a lot of wonderful stuff and a lot of horrible stuff when you were over there.
It's just different, right? Every deployment is different. So when people say like, "Oh, it's terrible," or "Oh, it was easy," or "It's a cakewalk," everyone has a different experience with it.
100, depending on your job, the location, the city.
We were lucky enough that we didn't lose a single soldier while in our unit while we were deployed, and when we got home, we lost about 6 of them due to suicide and car accidents and things like that. So it's unfortunate, but one thing I always told a lot of young soldiers is that people don't realize that deployments are hard, sure. But coming home and realizing the world went on without you is much harder.
Yeah, I from what I understand over the past 2 years, what was a crisis, the veteran suicide has been exacerbated due to whether you're talking about the drugs or you're talking about the isolation.
Isolation's a big one, yeah. But I think most veterans, we feel like we can kind of deal with things on our own, and it's not the way to deal with it.
And now you see why we need to spend at least an hour or two just talking about you.
Yeah.
All right, because everybody's probably tuning in looking for the CCSD.
Because I can tell you, I got coined by General Petraeus, and because I got to meet him, so that was this was before he became a director.
And you see, I want pictures of this, and we want to share this with the people.
I don't have any pictures of that. I was like 19 years old. Drove him around for like 4 days, and he's
I'm sure we could dig up some pictures of you behind a mounted gun.
Oh yeah, I definitely saw those.
But like I said, all right, we're gonna keep moving because I understand. All right, but tell me. Quicker, less interesting than the service, but the pageantry.
Yeah, so in 2014, I actually was in a pageant called Miss Veteran America, and it was hosted in Washington, D.C., so I got to go twice. I went, I think it was June or July of that year, and we competed for finals, and I got into top 25 in the nation. There was 250 applicants. And
was this something that you were into, or something like it's the armed service has the band, so you're like, I'll play the band, I'll do a pageant.
No. I really love, one thing I love about my personality is that I'm always willing to try something new, something that's not
conventional,
normal, I guess. I don't know. And because I've been in the military for so long at the time, 2014, so at least was that 7 years, so I wanted to try something different, right? Something that was completely out of my wheelhouse, because at the time I was competing in CrossFit competitions, and I just was very, very fit, and I wanted to just try something different that wasn't like this kind of like brash and rough and tough type of personality.
Right.
And I was
the softer side of Katie Williams.
Maybe a pageant would do really well, right? And so I learned a lot in that one pageant. So I got top 25. And then I went and competed again that same year, and I lost out at top 10. So I think I placed in the top 15, but I didn't.
But then you got the bug, and you're like, oh, let me do this.
Well, I did it, and I was like, man, that was really fun. The guy I was dating at the time, who was my husband, but we were just dating, and I told him, I was like, yeah, that was really fun. So in 2018, when we moved to Nevada, things had kind of settled down. Early 2019, I was like, I think I kind of want to do another pageant again, right? And I just started looking and all this stuff. So when you do this pageant, and every pageant system is so different. Right. And so people say like, oh, she was Miss Nevada. I'm like, no, I wasn't. Right? It was Ms. Nevada State, and I was 29 years old.
I know.
It
is confusing. And then there's Mrs. America, Miss America, Miss USA.
And there's Miss Universe, and there's Miss Silver City, and there's like there's all these different types of pageant systems. But you won one. Yeah, so I got one. So I got a crown, and and then I don't know, they hated me.
Right, well, like Lisa Sutton also won one. And
so she actually did the Miss America. So Miss America.
So that's the more official.
Yeah, that was the more official one.
So
that's
it's more appropriate for her to walk around with the sash as opposed to you.
Right.
Because that's the big one.
Yes.
You won a little nice one, and you're proud of it, but.
Yeah. But also, like, at the end of the day, too, I remember after going through this, I was like, you know what? Like, I think this is definitely my last one. It costs thousands of dollars to do this, and I don't even enjoy it to the highest level that I should.
It's almost like a campaign.
Yeah, it is a little bit. I enjoyed my campaign a lot more than I enjoyed pageantry, so it's a little bit the same.
But that's definitely interesting. All right, so, and then speaking of the personal stuff, and I would love to really get in, especially with your service, but just to get out of the way, I understand you went through a divorce, or you're going through a divorce, and to be honest, I don't want to really harp on it, but just address it. Is there anything?
No, it's truly fine. My husband and I separated in January of this year. We were working through things. We were seeing if this is kind of like what we wanted to do. Do we want to separate? Do we want to? I also was learning my position on the board. It took a lot of my time, right, initially. So we really kind of postponed a lot of that stuff. I had to go to school for the military for 3 weeks, and then when I came back, we were just kind of like, yeah, I think this is I think we're done, right? And so, you know, and I actually say this too to a lot of people, like as a human, I'm allowed the time to kind of self-reflect and step out of the limelight for a little bit to deal with things that are going on in my home. I would afford that same opportunity to every single person in politics. Right, or in entertainment in general, right? Who are in the public eye.
Well, like Buttigieg taking a few months off the paternity leave.
I mean, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that was it.
I have no idea.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean you were going on very lovely.
I don't know.
I some stupid things pop in my mind.
I try not. I don't try to assume I know what's going on in the world of anybody else.
Right. Right. Everybody's got their own story.
And nobody even knew that I was separated, which is fine.
Right.
And then. You know, and I try to keep that very close to the cuff because I wanted to deal with it, right? Not only that, but, you know, my husband is the father of my child.
Right.
Why would I drag his
name? And you still care about him.
And I still care about him, right? So why would I drag his name through the mud?
Right.
But ultimately, at the end of the, we just decided, I was like, yeah, this is done.
And then
so our divorce, our
it,
divorce was final in
I think
October.
it was like March, April, May, or April, May, June. There was a little bit of a lull. Katie Williams.
Yeah, Katie kind of disappeared for a little bit, and
that was you just taking care of your own personal stuff.
We actually didn't get lawyers. We went through a mediator.
That's wonderful.
He left the marriage debt free, and so did I. He doesn't pay child support, spousal support. I don't pay child support, spousal support. Like we left in the. I think total our divorce cost us $1,800.
Right.
So,
right.
And that's just
and people are not usually so lucky.
No, they're not. And we recognize that our daughter deserved better parents, and we were not being good parents by staying married.
You might be better
and we might
apart.
And as a Christian, I think that's what I struggle with the most. Right, is because you think about being married and like like
in the biblical sense
like what God has put
that's
together.
Let
no man separate. Right, but. I truly felt like, we weren't working.
Even with that considered. I mean, I'm divorced too, and I'm a Christian as well. It is a tough decision.
My ex-husband went to a few counselors to kind of like come to terms with some of his stuff. I went to counselors to actually come to terms with that concept by itself, because at the end of the day, it was like, sometimes things are okay to end. It's okay to let things end, and you have to actually let some things end in order to get better things coming up.
Well, are things better now?
I think so. Yeah, we don't fight about anything.
Whereas you used to.
We used to fight about everything,
right.
And so we don't fight about anything now. I think the one fight we had in the last 6 months was over a scheduling conflict.
Right, and that's it. So,
it was actually kind of nice.
And now we see more of you. You're here on the
I know.
I'm
actually I'm actually in a lot more events now because I had reclused quite a bit because I needed to deal with what was going on in my world.
Well, God bless you.
So.
All right, so let's get to all the new stuff, all right? Let's start out, first of all, it was only a year and a month ago that, you were campaigning.
Yeah.
You didn't even know if you would win. You would, you're a new, fresh face, and this has been a democratic thing, school boards and education and all this stuff. And you came in, look at your shirt with the very appropriate shirt, right?
I was at another event this morning, like we talked about, right? So it's it was an educational event for a parent group. And so it's, it says Make Education Great Again.
Right.
This is my campaign shirt that I used. So it was.
Right. And also Socialism Sucks. I think that was my favorite,
Yeah.
But, so you came screaming out as like, if not a Trumpster, then a super conservative new voice to the school board and everything. And you ran against, I think it was Mr. Prophet, who was
I ran against Jeff Prophet, yep.
And he was supposed to, be a shoo-in.
I think most people really thought that he was going to win.
Right.
I knew he wasn't going to. I knew I was going to win, especially after the primary happened. I knew I was going to win.
And what was it like being involved in just a whole campaign with the whole, media frenzy between the Trumps and the socialists or the Democrats and the Republicans and just the whole scene, and then you running with your red shirt.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people wanted him to win. I think a lot of people thought he was going to win. He's born and raised in Nevada. He's a big union guy. Most people know him. He raised $75,000 for his campaign. I raised $9,000.
Right.
I think one thing though is I truly did bring, I truly did bring something for parents to just really see, like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, this is not establishment person.
Right.
Right? Like, I'm still very conservative. I just try to, be pragmatic as well.
Well, we're individuals.
So, yeah.
Me and you disagree on a lot of, on some things and agree on a lot of other things.
Yeah, and I watched your show too. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I don't agree with that.
And there, I would say, if you agree with everything I say, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, that's not the person I want to talk to. Anyway. I think a lot of parents feel frustrated because they don't get the same information that elected officials do. Again, as I try to speak till I'm blue in the face to just get them that information, it's also them receiving it. If I can sit here and say all day long that masks weren't even my decision, that completely comes down from the governor and the county commission.
Right.
It never came to the board. I could say that till I'm blue in the face. I can't do anything about it. Right? It takes parents getting angry.
And I don't say ignorant in a demeaning way, but you got to understand the regular mom or dad who even knows that a school board exists.
Yeah,
thinks they're wearing masks and you're the school board.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had a friend, his son was dealing with some issues, and I said, hey, why don't you email the school board and the superintendent? And he's like, oh, can I do that? I'm like, you're a parent? Of course you can.
Right.
And he's like, until I met you as a friend, like, I would have never known that there was a school board that existed.
And that's why we have the same 3 liberals and the same 3 conservatives.
That show up at every school board meeting.
And acting as if they represent everyone.
Right. And I think the problem is that, like you said, right, not that they're ignorant, but most mom and dads, they go to work, they come home, they just want to be with their kids, right? They just want to trust that the school system's doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. They want to trust that their kids are safe. Most people work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Most people in our community are single parents. I'm now a proud single parent.
Right.
So, and like I bring my daughter with me everywhere I need to go, and she's only in school for 6 hours.
But people want to stick their head in the sand.
Yes.
And then the whole COVID and people watching the online lessons and stuff, all of a sudden people became enlightened and started investigating.
I think the best thing about COVID during 2020, the best thing about schools getting shut down is that parents finally got to see what was in the classrooms.
Right.
And what their kids were learning and what their teachers were interacting with them. And I say teachers as a whole, but I really shouldn't, because there are so many teachers. You're a teacher, right?
Yeah.
There's so many teachers that are really trying. They're really trying to just speak to these kids and give them the enlightenment that they need to have the critical thinking skills to go out into the world and do what they need to do.
And
most teachers are like
literate
that. But also most teachers don't want to stand up because they have bills too, right? The bills don't stop coming just because you decide to take a stand.
And you live in this community. When you're a high school teacher, your life is those halls that we all remember as high school kids. These are adults that are in charge of these halls, and you live in this environment and you're afraid. You're not afraid to have a Beto sticker on your laptop, but you're afraid to have a Trump sticker on your laptop.
I think we have to understand too is that conservatives. This is one of my major complaints. I was gonna say gripes or whatever, but I can't cuss on this radio show, I don't think.
You better watch your mouth. Sometimes they slip.
I do try not to. One of my major complaints, my major hang-ups with most mainstream conservatives, even then, right? But we get so focused on pointing out the inconsistencies in the rules, right? The rules are not fair, right?
So comparing January 6th to BLM riots. They should be.
So you can say. So I'll give you a good example. Our school board meetings are insane, right?
No.
You have liberals that are in the audience that freak out, they speak out and whatever, and nothing ever happens to them, and then the conservatives say one thing and it's immediately out the door, right? And as long as that is going to happen, conservatives have to understand that the rules are not tipped in our favor, and we have to be able to work around that as opposed to constantly just pointing out the hypocrisies. Everyone knows the hypocrisy is there. There is, you can say Black Lives Matter, but you can't say White Lives Matter.
I don't think everybody knows. I really don't. I got people that I like and I respect that are so upset that Kyle Rittenhouse got off on that charge.
Well, I actually made a post about that on Twitter. I said if Kyle Rittenhouse were a liberal, liberals would be very, very excited about this verdict. And I got murdered for it on Twitter yesterday, and I'm like, well, that's normal.
Par for the course, right?
But
seriously, then you look at some of the other news outlets and what they're saying. And they're literally lying about him going over state lines with the gun, talking about, he had no reason to
I don't know if
there.
people don't understand this, but it's not illegal to travel across state lines with a firearm.
Right. They're planting the seeds to make it an interstate case because they're hoping that the federal government will now press charges against him.
And it's unfortunate because, our Vice President Kamala Harris had tweeted out that she was upset with the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, and so I think Joe Biden said the same thing. And
he alluded to it.
It's unfortunate that you have, but again, it's political theater. Most things are political theater. Well, what's the term? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Squeaky wheel gets the oil.
So yeah. So the louder you are, the more people are going to pay attention to you, and that's why when I ran my campaign in 2020, I said I don't care if they're good stories or bad stories.
Right. Any press is good press.
Any press is good press. And it's why Trump won in 2016, right?
Right. They were giving him press. They valued
it didn't matter
tens of billions of dollars.
It didn't matter what he said when the recordings of him in the past came out. Didn't matter. As long as his name was there, because whatever gets repeated gets remembered.
All right. So moving on, you continue to campaign on platforms such as Firing Jara, anti-racist curriculum being put in, sexual education is now becoming a big thing. And these are the things you were talking about too, mostly the Republican base. That was the events that you were going to, and that rang true with especially the Republican voters, which got you the job. But now then things started to change and evolve, like for example with your Firing a Jara. Can you tell me more about the evolution of going to any press is good press candidate to I'm now a government official, so I got to watch my P's and Q's a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you got to go work within the system that you're obviously new to. So
I don't think people realize this either. During my campaign, I actually resigned active duty from the military. So I was active duty when I first started my campaign, and I resigned because it got to the point where I was really limited on what I could and couldn't say.
Right.
I actually got into a lot of trouble going after Sisolak.
Right. Well, that's
because of the National Guard, he's my commander-in-chief.
I mean, just along those lines, one of our viewer questions, we got a bunch for the end of the show, was saying that do you have any kind of a muzzle due to the fact that you are, even just in the National Guard, not active duty? Like, can you say masks are BS and contradict Joe Biden?
I say it all the time. I actually said it a couple days ago, I'm pretty sure. But I think more so if people aren't paying attention to me 24/7, they're going to miss some of the things I say. I'm still in the Guard. I'm still in the National Guard, right? I'm also now a government elected official, right? So there are things that I fall under that I can be fined for. That I can be censured for, so I do have to work around that stuff, right? And I actually stated this to my ex-husband. I said I think that I should almost go back to being an activist as opposed to a politician, because as a politician there are things you can't say, and if you do say, because there are rules that apply to us that don't apply to you, right? There are rules that apply to me as a National Guard member that would not apply to you, and so it's unfortunate because I do have to be very careful.
Right. So are there particular things that you want to say that you're not? For example, about, say, mask mandate. And what is the reason? Is the reason because you're going to be contradicting public policy, or because you're going to be contradicting the commander-in-chief of the armed forces?
Well, it's not that, right? As a National Guard member, I have a little bit more freedom as a traditional drilling soldier, right? So I drill 1 week in a month, go away for a couple weeks in the summer or whatever. I can still say a lot of different things to that. My biggest thing is that I also want to be fair to to represent the actual school district, because I don't represent the school district, right? My job is to represent parents and students. Right. So I'm very vocal about my phone number. I let people reach out to me.
If you want to let them know right now.
Yeah, I don't care. It's 309-267-9508. I would say just please don't call me after 10, and just shoot me a text message first before you call. I don't have a problem with giving my phone number out. I haven't changed my phone number in 10 years. And in fact, in the event I was at prior to this, I gave my phone number out to about 30 people there. I am a very accessible person. I think people are very intimidated. I've also talked to a lot of groups where they're like, hey, I just don't like your answers. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell. I can't. I'm not going to tell you something that's untrue.
You'd like to discuss something, okay, but
and you don't have to agree with me. But I'm not going to be untrue. I'm not going to be disingenuous. I went to an event one time and I got reamed for 4 hours because they called me a bigot, and it was an LGBT event because I got invited. And
how do you deal with that?
I sit quietly and I say thank you for your comments. It's unfortunate because I truly don't hate people. Right. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I care about how you treat other people. Right. And if that be, you don't have to like me, but you also don't have to be an asshole to me. Sorry. And I understand. Can we beep that out? My bad.
But and I also said the same thing a couple episodes ago. I said something like, I was saying something like, oh, I hate Lola Brooks and Linda Cavazos, and I didn't mean that. And that's another thing. I told you we don't edit here, you know.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I left it, but I don't. I mean, I hate their political
Sure.
policies and stuff like that, but I always said, you know, they're all invited here. Danielle Ford is invited here,
Yeah.
and one parallel, I know you and Danielle Ford don't get along very well, and we're going to address that in just a minute, but I see a lot of parallels because she also won a race where she was severely outgained monetarily,
Yeah.
and she wasn't the favorite. She was just some girl that,
Sure.
you know, said, I'm going to run kind of like you, and both of you had upsets without having, you know, it's not like you had like the NVGOP or you had the Trump RNC
yeah.
at bankrolling
No.
your thing. You were just a girl who said, I'm a Republican. You know, she
Yeah.
was just a girl, and she was actually a Republican. Or
I think she's an independent.
she was an independent,
Yeah,
and
she
then
ran.
and then when she decided to run, she herself said she thought that she leaned Republican, but she was independent. She didn't care that she. And then
Yeah.
before she did her candidacy, I think she filed as a Democrat, or right after she filed
Yeah.
for the trustee, she filed
And,
as a
and,
Democrat.
and again, I don't care what your political affiliations are. I can get along with you as long as there's a common goal, right?
Right.
Or there's at least a conversation or a dialogue. And if at the end of the day we have that dialogue and you don't agree with me and I don't agree with you, that's fine. But what I have a problem with is people who try to bully you into your opinion, right? Bully your opinion out of you, right?
Right.
So like I don't like that. I don't. And so when I got elected and I told people like, hey, listen, there are things behind this curtain that I didn't see when I was running a campaign because
Right.
you can't see them.
Right.
They won't tell you.
Right. Right.
And that's unfortunate. And that's one of the biggest problems with CCSD is that our parents don't know the information, right? Thank God we have, you know, Todd Story, who's our new communications director, right? He can actually start pushing at these things because CCSD, as you know, they're not all bad, right? There are
Right.
things that they do that are really good. There are
Right.
things that they do are really bad. And unfortunately, the bad news travels faster.
Much, right. You have 1,000 great stories in one school shooting.
Yes.
That's what we're going to be talking
Yeah, exactly,
about.
right? So, and that's actually a phrase, like good news travels fast, bad news travels fast.
But that's
So-
also why I like, you know, we have a few mutual acquaintances besides Danielle Ford, also Sarah Cirillo.
Yep.
And she's about, she's not a screaming liberal. She's actually kind of
Sarah's,
conservative.
I
But
feel like Sarah's pretty just independent, right? Sarah
Right.
is just
And
Sarah.
I feel like Danielle's the same thing. And that's why I'm fans of that, and that's why I like to have them on the show, is because there's not a lot of Democrat or
Sure.
liberal-leaning people that really can handle a back and forth
Sure.
or enjoy a back and forth or a
Yeah.
discussion.
I've
you
actually
know.
said that about Danielle too, during my campaign and even after, and even now today, right? Right or wrong, she believes what she believes, and that's what she says.
And
Right?
if I had
It's
to,
the same thing with me,
Right.
right or wrong, like.
and it might not
this is what I
necessarily be
believe,
her
this is what I
job.
believe, yeah.
She's a representative, so it's her job to make the decisions, you know, to represent. But it's not her job to take a straw poll every time and do it. But
Yeah,
I do
that's-
like that.
yeah.
I mean, she does engage with the
Sure.
community,
You gotta
and
think-
that has a big effect on her decisions.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I don't necessarily agree with the decisions she's making, but I at least respect the integrity of what she's trying to do. I believe
we
her.
get a ton of emails. I really try to engage with parents a lot. I talk to a lot of parent groups, a lot of PTAs, a lot of SOTs, because I have 300,000 people in my district. It's impossible for me to be able to talk to them.
And it's and I think you have since redistricting occurred, and we're going to address this in a second too, is that you have probably the largest district and the
I
most
think I'm-
rural.
I think I'm pretty middle, but geographically I have
That's
the
what I mean,
largest.
spread
oh
out,
yes, yes.
spread out. the most,
Geographically,
yeah.
I have the largest.
You're all
one.
at 320,000.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's
right,
the
right.
average. That was the
Yeah.
whole idea of redistricting.
It's gotta be within 5%.
But I'm
yeah.
saying, like, you know, the way they did it, you have all of the rural
Sure.
north now.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Let's get to some of the drama that's
Okay,
been
what's the
happening
drama?
right here in CCSD.
Yeah.
All right. First, Danielle Ford was on about a month ago, and she says that, you know, with this whole Jara thing, that you've been teaming up with Lola Brooks in order to help be Team Jara. And Lola Brooks brought up the fact in a school board meeting. I appreciate the shout out to the Johnny Brew Show, Lola Brooks, but next time you got to say my name right. Number one. Number two, it was me who was making Danielle put it in teams. It wasn't Danielle who was saying, oh, they're teams. I was just trying to let the viewers know. And Danielle was following my lead. She wasn't breaking people up into teams. That was me. But nonetheless,
Sure.
you became teammates
Sure.
with a Democratic Socialist.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that interesting?
It's really interesting. I mean, you know, she's
But-
celebrated on Democrat Socialist websites that they actually got
I
somebody
actually don't
in.
think she's a member anymore. I'm pretty sure. I think her membership.
They're still bragging about her.
Which is weird because she doesn't talk to any of them. Or she, in my opinion, I don't see her going to the meetings or talking about it and behind closed doors, because we have closed sessions or whatever. We talk about things. I tell them about the Republican events that I go to and all that stuff. But it is interesting. I think one thing that if I could get to, because I know that I've seen some of the questions online where people are like, they don't understand why I'm doing certain things. I'm like, if you trusted me to get me elected, like, let me show you why. And if I'm to a point where I have to, like, maybe team up with someone who's part of the DSA, maybe there's something deeper and more sinister going on inside our school district.
Well, Danielle Ford had an explanation. You got Danielle Ford's explanation on why Katie might be doing some of the things she's doing. All right, play tape. You're going to like this one.
Okay.
It's a quick one.
Right.
It's only a 10-second.
I would be surprised, I don't know that this is true, but I would be surprised if the superintendent hasn't promised her a million things and has already delivered a million things, because he needs her to be that vote. We just approved his contract.
Right.
Or an extension. That was super, debatable. I actually have
That's good. All right, so she says you have,
that I got promises.
that you're promised things and that you must be receiving something from Jara.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Jara?
Well, I didn't get promised anything, and I don't receive anything from Jara.
As briefly as possible.
No,
so you got elected, you got trustees,
sure.
Now you meet Jara for the first time or something.
So and I actually say this on the record a couple times. So before, when I run my election, right, it was November 3rd of 2020. Very next morning at about 7:30 in the morning, I got a phone call from a 702 number, and I was like, "Oh, who's this?" Da da da. Right.
Well, you give your number to everybody.
Yeah.
Who the hell could it be?
I answered the phone. I said, "Hello, this is Katie." And,
I wouldn't have answered.
And I don't know. I guess I'm just
text me first.
I'm either stupid or brave. I'm not sure.
Or both.
Or both. All right. And so it was Dr. Jara, and he says, "Hi, Trustee-elect Katie Williams. I just wanted to congratulate you and just calling the trustees. You were the first one I called. I just wanted to make sure you know that, like, I'm here, and if at any time you want to have an appointment meeting, I'd love to before you get sworn in or something like that." And I was like, "Sure, okay." So I actually went and had an appointment with him. He was really on edge because I think he kind of watched my campaign.
Knew that you were running on fire,
sure.
Jara.
Yeah, and he watched my campaign, of course, right? He's not a dumb man.
Right, or oblivious.
Or oblivious, right? Like, you see it. And we had a really good conversation, last about 30 minutes. And I said, "Okay, sounds good." And then I walked out of that meeting. I was like, "Yeah, I'm still going to fire that dude." Right.
But you had a little bit of respect for him.
But I had a little bit of respect for him. So as you get onto the board and you go through, they have board training sessions, we go into those and we learn how to become a trustee, right? We learn what the laws are, the open meeting laws, regulations that we fall under, as far as also what the district policies are that technically don't apply to us, but we try to follow those as closely as we can.
Right, if you're making the teachers wear masks, then the trustees should probably wear masks.
Right. So, we don't fall under any district policy, but we try to
be an example.
To be an example, right? I saw that there was a lot of things going on behind those closed sessions and behind those closed doors that the public can't see. Jara gets hit on a lot. I'm not defending him.
Hit on? Like, hey, baby?
No, politically hit on, it's terrible and all this, news-wise, media hits, right?
Right.
So he gets a lot of these media hits saying that he's a terrible person, that he does this, that he does that, and he doesn't do anything to defend himself. So what do people think, right? People think, "Oh, it must be true."
Right, he's not Katie Williams, here's my phone number.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that, right? I also kind of fell into this, "Oh yeah, he must be terrible because the media is saying he's not doing anything to counterproduct it or whatever." Right. Not knowing that apparently they didn't have a chief communications officer that entire year.
Right, and for the fifth, or maybe at the time was second or third or fifth, but the biggest school district in the country, we don't have a communications officer?
No.
We're spending $5.2 billion a year?
Yeah.
I mean, more than most countries.
But here's why. Nobody wanted the job. I mean, would you want this job?
Oh, yeah. I love communication. but I'm not going to send the message that they probably want.
But in general.
I'm a little more Kayleigh McEnany than Psaki.
So in general, I got to see a lot was going on. There was a ton of micromanaging from this board, right? And these policies that the board falls under, these were started long before I was on the board, long before Danielle Ford was on the board, long before Lola Brooks and Linda Cavazos were on the board. They started them in 2014, 2012, or 2010. This is when they were starting these board governance policies where they were trying to switch over to a more comprehensive thing. The board itself is not an overreaching board. It should not be an overreaching board, right? We have one employee, and we should do oversight. We should serve as oversight for the school district.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't understand, the Board of Trustees is actually the top entity.
Yes.
And then they have one employee
Yes.
who runs the district.
Who runs the entire district.
So the 7 trustees are the superintendent's boss, and the superintendent is then the boss of CCSD.
Yes. So here's kind of how it works, and that's a perfect example, right? You have your 7 trustees, you have your 1 superintendent, and underneath that superintendent, you have 16 executive cabinet members, and under those 16 executive cabinet members, they have hundreds of employees,
right?
Thousands of employees.
And this is the deep state
and
that I believe all our money is going towards.
Deep, and then they're deep, and it's really hard to keep them track. When I first became the trustee, they gave me a big, gigantic organizational chart of every single department, and I'm like, I could make wallpaper.
Right. You look like one of those crazy conspiracy, and you've been called that. So there you go.
Yeah,
you should start one.
Yeah, I should start
all
one.
All we need is a picture of you doing that with strings.
And I'll put like a little random sticky notes around
Any press is good press, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
cigarettes,
so, maybe
whiskey.
Whatever. I'll just throw something in there to get people really riled up. But which apparently I'm really good at.
Tinfoil.
Yeah, I'll like hang my tinfoil hat next to it. But and so. The Board of Trustees should never be an overreaching board, right? We evaluate our superintendent, regardless if it's like Jara or whoever, right? It doesn't matter. We evaluate the superintendent. We can't evaluate the superintendent if we don't allow the superintendent to do his job.
Right, you can't handcuff him at any turn.
And that's what the board's been doing for a decade, right? So long before me.
But I've heard rumors. And again, I'm learning about this.
Sure.
I'm probably learning just as you are, except you're in it, so you're probably learning 5 times as fast as me. But that the board over the past 10 years has been constantly giving their power away to the superintendent, is what people have been saying.
Well, so here's what happened a lot. And this is the Linda Young days, right? Linda Young, as a principal or administrator, I can't remember quite, and there's like a whole history, right? Because CCSD is very incestuous, right? Everyone's married to everyone, everyone's dating everyone, everyone's like this mom and this kid and that whatever.
Right.
Like, they're just all freaking related. And how could you not be? You're one of the largest employers.
And that's who you talk to. Yeah, I understand
you're one of the largest employers
still
in Las Vegas. However,
doesn't make it good.
Doesn't make it good. However, here's what happened. So, like, back in the Linda Young days, there were things that they thought, okay, the board shouldn't have this power. We're going to give it to the principals, right? Administrators should have this power. We should do this. So the board, listening to that, said, okay, you're right. Like, why should we have operational oversight over what administrators do? That doesn't make sense. So they started doing this. They started giving away that operational power because, again, they're oversight, not overreach. Right? And we're part-time.
Right. I mean, seriously, right? That's crazy, too.
We still put 20 hours a week into this thing.
You put 9 hours last night. Or 2 nights ago
or
whatever.
But,
but
just in general,
they're
right?
supposed to be like a 3-hour meeting, right?
So effective boards are 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
We're not effective, but...
You heard it here first.
We're just not. We're chaotic and we're not effective. And I've said that to day one. But anyway... so the Linda Young days, right? Like when she was an administrator, she was like, yeah, the board shouldn't have this power, right? She's actually, I say her name because she's one of the key figures of why this is the way it is. When she got elected to the board, then she realized, oh, I don't have operational control over these principles. Why not? Right. And we're like, well, because you did it.
Right.
Because it's like, so they want the best of both worlds, right? They want to be oversight and be like this figure propped up on a podium, and then they want overreach and like whatever they say goes and have all power. You just can't have any of these, really, truly, and you can't. So, and what they don't understand is the trustees there are trustees on our board that tie the hands of the superintendent, and you can read his demand letters and you can read why. And now all the FOIAs are coming out. Thank God. Like, I'm so happy that those come out and people can see them.
Well, yeah.
Because they can see what kind of crazy just goes on in emails. Imagine what's going on.
Sarah is with political.tips.
Yeah.
I just want to give her a little plug, but she's also the crazy trans liberal is working with Make CCSD Great Again on FOIA requests and releasing all this information. These are really weird bedfellows, man. Politics.
Isn't that, and so some of your viewers should know that, isn't that a clue as to why right? These people get in bed with each other, right? Not in bed, right? But like just they're
sorry, Johnny Brew made that analogy, not Katie Williams.
But they're getting into partnerships with each other because they're like, oh man, this is really broken.
Nick Fidei
right?
and Sarah Cirillo.
Nick Fidei and Sarah Cirillo, and that's crazy, right?
You heard it here first.
Just that they're just but it makes sense that these two entities would get together and they're like, wow, something's really broken here. Something's really bad, and maybe it's time that CCSD is no longer a large district.
Well,
right?
And you start bringing up some interesting points. For example, just you ran on school choice.
I'm still a huge school choice. I'm not school choice does not mean anti-public education, by the way. I don't think people understand that concept, right? I'm school choice, so I must be anti-public education. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm a proud member of a public education system. My daughter goes to CCSD, like she's in public education.
I'm school choice,
right?
and I love public education.
Right? Public education isn't bad. It's bad when not checked. Right? It's not like,
or the only option.
And it's the only option, right? It doesn't make sense, right? So we have homeschool, we have charter schools, we have these little micro schools now.
And the great thing about CCSD is so big. You can do your own school choice within CCSD. I mean, we do have magnet programs and zone variances and stuff like that. And why is that such a bad thing? Like, what?
It's not a bad thing, but and here's why it's a bad thing. Here's why it can be a bad thing. Because if you start making schools pit against themselves, right? Teachers have to become more competitive. Schools have to be more competitive.
And competition
is
bad.
I don't think it's bad. Unions think it's bad.
Right.
Unions don't want that. They don't want that because then there are a lot. Again, I don't want to say as a whole teachers are bad or support staff is bad, because that's not true, right? A very small percentage of every single one of these bunches are destroying themselves, and it's unfortunate because good teachers like you get roped into this and say all teachers are bad and they're all teaching CRT and they're all teaching sex ed, and that's not true, right?
No, that's absolutely not true. I mean, the squeaky wheels for the third time, get the oil, get the grease, like they said in Illinois. In New York, we say oil. But, I mean, these people are screaming about it, and that's what's getting all the attention. And then those three people in the whole school that are screaming about it are the ones with the Beto sticker on their laptop. But if you have a Trump sticker, they scream bloody murder.
I think it's interesting when I get called a partisan hack and someone gets very upset with me because I'm super partisan. And yet, you can go look at our president's vehicle, and I'm not going to tell you what vehicle it is, because I think you'd pretty much be able to figure it out. And she has, stickers that say, like, dump Trump and, like, go Joe Biden. And she has, like, moms demand action.
But then if you had Let's Go Brandon.
And it's covered in
really?
news. Covered.
And then if you had Let's Go Brandon, it would be headline news.
Yeah. I'm not kidding you when I say covered, and that's not an exaggeration. Really? There's at least 30 stickers.
And she's a doctor.
She's not a doctor. She only has her master's degree.
So she's this educated psychiatrist, counselor,
therapist,
something.
Whatever.
And she's the president of the school board, and she's driving around like a Volkswagen Bug, like a hippie driving rolling down Venice Boulevard.
I'm not going to tell you what her
Right, but I'm not asking what kind, but she's that hippie.
I feel like you'd be able to figure it out.
Like if a surfboard belongs on the top of the car.
I couldn't see her surfing. Surfing's a little bit of a stretch, but...
All right, well, here's the partisan hack and the accusation by Danielle Ford that you're working with the Democratic Socialist, which doesn't make me very happy. Play tape.
So I don't know. I just feel like there's something going on. Like maybe he's done her some favors, and because she is like, will fight me. Anything I say about Jara or the way he's doing something, or hey, can we get reminded of this? She's like, Trustee Ford, that's the operational under the superintendent. I'm like, I didn't ask you, biatch. Like, okay, like all the time. Like she always stops me and like tells me what my job is. On the record, off the record, closed meetings. It's like her favorite thing in the world to be like, So I thought that Lola Brooks was the ultimate rule follower. Well, now Katie follows Lola. She's like her. They call it themselves. What was it, like the dynamic duo? Okay,
shut up.
I swear stop. I'm not making this up. I couldn't. Okay, so that's where I am.
Lola Brooks and Katie Williams are the dynamic duo.
Yes, they've called themselves out on briefings.
I hope we have unity in the Clark County Republican Party, and we will start covering the meetings. We have Anna Binder as our educational correspondent.
It's funny.
I don't know if.
I don't think I actually saw that clip when I watched her because
you missed that one. There's a lot to unpack.
You had
there.
3 sections of her show, I believe, or was it 2?
Yeah, the old-fashioned Johnny Brew 4-hour episode.
I don't remember what
you
it was.
didn't get all 4 hours.
That one's funny.
That's
honest. I'm telling you, I listen to 8 hours of her sometimes, and that's enough. Like, it's enough. I don't need to listen to her on shows either.
All right, so before we get to the dynamic duo, she was talking about your interactions, whether behind closed doors, in front of closed doors.
100%.
She acts like you think that you're her boss.
Oh, I don't think I'm her boss. I think if nobody else keeps her in check, that's exactly what's going to happen.
And what does she need to be kept in check?
Because here's what happens, right? Again, as a board, we're an oversight. We are not here to overreach, and we're not here to tell staff members, again, they're not our employees. We have one employee, a superintendent, right? And that superintendent is supposed to provide us reports, and he does. The problem is that she wants them to be unpacked. She wants to have individual certain things like this, and then she will go out of her way to avoid him, to direct the staff to do things. And all the staff sit down on her. They're like, no.
Gotcha. All right.
Like
so again, there's the 7 people. Here's Jara. Danielle is trying to circumvent.
She's trying to always circumvent these policies and these governance policies and all these things that we're doing.
So then when she starts doing that, shut her up.
And here's why, right? Because she listens to the same, it's like Linda, right? She listens to the same 10 people that tell her she's smart and she's doing a really good job and all this stuff, and that gets to her head.
Is she
right?
smart?
I mean, I don't think she's dumb.
Is she doing good at her job?
I don't think she's doing good at her job.
All right, continue.
That's my personal opinion,
right? We're all entitled.
But here's the thing.
I don't think she's a fan of yours.
Here's how, and that's fine. She doesn't have to be. Here's how I know, even if I didn't, right? Here's how I know the staff really has issues with some of the trustees. If I were to call up one of the staff members today and say, hey, when you have time, can you give me a call or can you help me figure out this problem? I don't want to bother the superintendent. If you have time, right? I'm actually pretty nice to them. Right. They'll probably do it. Because I don't ask them for favors, ever.
Right.
And 2, I'm very nice to them, and I let them do their job. Because how can you rate somebody
on a job? But how does this relate to Danielle?
Because she doesn't let them do that. She tries to circumvent them. She tries to go onto these staff members, and she does cause a lot of problems within the school board.
Do you have an example?
Within the district. I mean, there's a lot, but she listens to these principals that are like no longer principals.
Right.
And they're telling her how to do things. And so we have briefings together. It's her, myself, and Trustee Cepeda, because you can only have 3 trustees in a briefing for consent agenda items.
Why?
Beforehand. So trustees get briefed on items before they come to the consent agenda.
And why can't everybody listen to the briefing?
Because then you have a quorum, and that's an open meeting problem.
Okay.
Yeah, so
gotcha.
so we do trustee briefings.
So anytime 4 or more trustees are in the same room, we need a camera. We need to call it a closed meeting.
And you have to post it 5 days prior.
And all right, I got you.
So
now.
if you have 3 trustees in one briefing, then you can brief
call it a meeting,
and say, hey, listen, like here's what's coming on your consent agenda. Here's your time to ask questions.
Gotcha.
We have time to review.
And these are the things that we need to learn about.
And all this stuff comes out to us before we even have our consent agenda item briefings. Right. So we have the ability to look through this stuff, get our questions written down, and then go into the briefings and answer our questions. And we'll ask these questions, and then she'll ask questions that are like, hey, like, let's do this. This is this random scope of things that we can't actually do because it costs extra money and it doesn't make any sense. But we're going to ask for the staff to pull this out of their behinds, right? Like on a fly. And they're like, that's not how it works. Like,
so you just happen to be one paired up with Danielle, and then she's asking stupid questions, and you're telling her to shut up.
I don't ever tell her to shut up. I never say that because I think that's rude, and I don't actually think that's productive. Actually,
sorry, I tell people to shut up.
I don't tell her to shut up or that it's a stupid question or anything like that. I simply say, like, hey, that's operational. Hey, that question is answered right here. Right? Like, it's right there.
Right.
A good example was, I want to say it was a June meeting or a July meeting. I can't remember. But someone got kicked out. The board was told by security to go in the back. So we all did it, except for Danielle. She went out and caused more problems. And that doesn't allow the police to do their job.
Right.
They can't do their job if a trustee's there because there's only so many police officers that are assigned to trustees. Right. And they're trying to handle the issue. And she thought she would help,
but she made things worse.
So then the very next meeting, we had this briefing from the security officers, from the police officers, and they said, hey, listen, like if we tell you like to come off the board, Like, we'll do whatever you guys want us to do. This is how the police officer said, we'll do what you guys want us to do, but we need to have a consistent, right? Like, if we tell you to come off the board, all of you have to go in the back. Right? Because we can't be distracted by a trustee, because our number one goal is to keep the trustees safe.
Exactly. So
and
you're a target.
And we can't do that.
Right.
When there's like
trustees
chaos going on here and trustees going on
they
over
assume
here.
You're out of sight, out of mind, and next
that's-
thing you know, there's Danielle Ford. Somebody hates Danielle Ford, so it's throwing things at her.
And that's exactly right. And so in that meeting, I believe something, but I don't remember. Again, this was months ago. I have no idea. But there was something said, and she's like, "Oh, well, why can't we do this?" And I'm like, "Because we just went over it." like those are the things. It's not because I'm like, "Oh, you're an idiot," but I'm just like, "We just went over this.
Well,
this is why." I
understand. Get through some of these
like,
things.
I understand you want to be like this crusader, and you want to be for the people. I understand it, and I get it.
Right.
But there's a way to be effective, and you're just not effective. And when you're so annoying that you can't be effective, nobody's listening to you.
But you sound like, first of all, you're giving her some under the table compliments about she wants to do the right thing. She has the right motivations.
I don't think Danielle is a bad person. I truly don't. I've never thought that she's a bad person. I think that she's ineffective, and I think that she goes about things the wrong way.
So why wouldn't you help her out?
I try.
How would you feel if I sat here and you sat there and Katie sat here?
I'd be fine with it.
And we had a nice little talk.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Sure, please.
I mean,
that's great.
I like Katie.
I'm like, let's get to the bottom of things, good or bad or whatever. Let's straighten it out. Like, I'm here for it.
100.
No name calling. Let's
No.
be adults.
No. I mean, we could make it a little comical, but I mean, no ill will, or just a nice little talk, and you're a jerk is allowed.
I'll say I shouldn't have said that word about biatch, but that is what goes in my mind. But I wouldn't
Biatch
say
is
that
worse than bitch.
I wouldn't say it during like a whatever.
If you said biatch, nobody would have a problem with that.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
All right, really, we got to keep going. All right, so there you go.
So I have never called Danielle a name to her face. Maybe I've thought about it, but she's never called me a name, right? So there's a lot of persona there that she's kind of displaying in that show that like she doesn't have in closed sessions, right? For the most part,
she's not as sweet and warm and colorful and nice.
I mean, not you. I mean, it's not like that. It's not like that. These personalities are like completely gone, right? That is her personality.
Right.
She's like that on the board. But you see a camera version of Danielle and a real version of Danielle. Right. And it's the same thing with everyone else. You see a camera version of them and you see a real version of them. Everybody's like that. It's like when you pick up the phone to talk to, I don't know, a friend that you hadn't talked to in a long time. Your voice gets higher. Hi, how are you? What's going on?
As opposed to you talking to your iPhone. Take the garbage out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's just personas that change over time. And of course, in the beginning, I thought that Danielle and I could actually be friends. I tried to be friends with her. She got upset with me because I didn't support her for vice president.
I know when I first met you, I think I told you, Danielle Ford, she's a little bit of a liberal, but she's really nice, I hope.
And her and I had actually some really long conversations about the school district and about ideas and concepts, and her and I disagreed on some, we agreed on some, all that stuff, right? We actually have a lot in common.
All right.
And that's what people don't understand. But she won't work well with me, and I don't work well with her, right? Honestly, it's just personality conflicts, I think, at this point. But we have different goals.
So much, and I like her so much.
But we have different goals.
That's really what it is. Sit down and talk about it.
Well, I'm sure we could, but I don't think it would actually be effective. I honestly, Johnny, and I'm just telling you the truth.
How open are you to it?
I'm really not that open to it. And
that's the feeling I got.
And here's why. And because I spent 8 hours listening to her under her breath. The last meeting, 8 hours, because when those mics are off,
I could be Linda Cavazos, the therapist.
No, gosh, no.
And then I'll say, Danielle, are you saying things under your breath to Katie? And we could get to the bottom of it.
Well, it's not just to Katie; it's to everybody. She said. So even Lisa Guzman and I had an issue. She's like, "Oh, you're so rude." I'm like, "I'm the rude one." Like, I've actually been very, very tame this meeting, and like you guys are the ones that are being crazy people.
Right. Well, I always hear them complaining about you and Danielle.
Sure.
I mean, you guys are the two targets.
Sure. Well, we're the loudest ones. That's why. And I'm just being honest, right? I know I'm a loud individual.
Right.
She is too. And so then there's no denying it because there's
you guys
hours and hours and hours and
personalities.
hours of video evidence of us being loud people.
Right.
So.
From you being a pageant to her helping teen moms and when she was younger and stuff like that.
But you notice too, right? Like, I actually despise this about some people, and I don't know why that people do this, but they'll hit on Danielle's looks, they'll hit on Danielle's previous, boudoir photos or whatever.
Right.
Why? That doesn't indicate that she's a bad trustee or that she's a good trustee or anything. I don't care what she did.
Well, have you ever taken a picture in a bikini?
Yeah.
I mean, because
I'm a girl in the 21st century. But that's my thing. Like I don't like, a lot of people don't like Linda, so they hit on her looks and her hair. That to me is so ridiculous. It's childish, if anything, right?
And that's the opposite of what and that's why I hate all the
anti-racism
policy and stuff. Like, people are jerks and they need to be taken care of.
If you want to attack me on your merits, that's okay.
Right.
I'm okay with you
people who attack on looks, whether race or fat or zits or disability, they're all jerks.
Sure.
Like, we don't have to classify you as a racist, you as a sexist, you as a fat basher.
Yeah.
You're all jerks and you need discipline.
Yeah.
Right? That's my argument against the anti-racist policies.
Yeah. I think my biggest issue with Danielle, honestly, is because there is no calm dialogue, right? Like, you and I have a very calm dialogue. Even if you disagree with anything I'm saying, you're not going to get loud to overshadow me. She does this a lot in meetings. She does it to Trustee Cepeda. She does it to staff members.
Turns up the volume.
She turns up the volume because they know that they're going to shut down, right? Because she knows that too. Right.
They're more timid than she is.
Yeah. Well,
as you may not be.
I'm just not. And that's why she gets mad, because the more loud she gets, I get louder. Right. And that's why she doesn't like me, because I call her out on it.
And you can match her.
And I can match it.
Decibel for decibel.
Correct. I'm like, the only way to be crazy is to be crazy, and so I try to do my best.
All right, so let's dissect the Jara situation.
All right.
All right? I mean, I'm going to give you a 10-second synopsis. I'd like you to give me a 2-minute synopsis.
Okay.
You ran on firing him.
Okay.
There was a vote to fire him that lost. You voted against firing him.
Yes.
Then there was a vote to extend his contract, which passed 4-3, which was not necessary. We could have just let him serve out his contract, or at least in my ignorant opinion, that's, let's visit that later. Then, a couple months later, after extending his contract, we vote to fire him 4-3. And then, a month later, 2 days ago, we vote to rescind the I've never said here on the Johnny Bruce Show whether I'm pro-firing or pro-Jara, and I've heard some of the things, but in 2 minutes, can you take us through what I just said?
It's pure chaos on that board. That effort to get rid of Jara because he stands up to these trustees has been ongoing for the last year and a half.
Well, we went to lunch and you still wanted to fire him the day after you won your election.
Yes.
So take us to the point.
This is before I met him also, by the way.
Right, so take us to the point as quickly as possible.
Sure, I'll try.
Through where you've changed your opinion either of him or of him being fired.
Over the course of meetings, closed sessions, briefings, interactions, personal interactions that you see him with other trustees and things like that, you can see where the damage is being done. And it's between that relationship between the superintendent and the board. It would not matter if it were Jara or someone else. That board wants control over everything. And we do not, that is not our role.
So the trustees, instead of overseeing, they were attacking.
They were attacking, tying his hands. His claims to harassment are pretty valid.
Well, we're going to get into that. I'd like to know some of the details, but
I can't. Well, and I have to be careful, right? Because there's going to be a third party investigation, and I think it's very telling that 3 of our trustees didn't want a third party investigation because they knew that, and right? it's going to happen, right? All of our stuff is public record. It's
right. The emails are coming out via the FOIA requests and everything else like that.
Right, text messages, all this stuff. There are text messages out there, and I think Sarah actually reported on these, that it shows Linda Cavazos and Fakisha Miller having full-fledged conversations about firing Jara. Right? Like, how can you tell me that that's the thing? When I got elected, one of the first conversations I had with Danielle was how to get rid of Jara.
Right.
And not only how to get rid of Jara, how to get rid of Marianne Miller.
Okay.
Right? And who's our board attorney, for people who don't know.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, but because at the time, right, this is before I knew Jara, before I actually knew what's going on in the district, and it's because he stands up to them. Skorkowski didn't do that, but he was also kind of ready to go. Right. He didn't really want to stay.
Right.
But why would you, right? He stood up to them. He enabled the executive staff to stand up to the board, and they were they're mad. They're very mad, right? And these principals that have been there for 28, 29 years that have an issue with Jara, the problem is because he's coming in and changing the things that they do because they're not working. Right?
Well, we need change. That's one thing we know.
Well, that's
for
the
sure.
thing. You can't do the same thing over and over and over again and expect it to keep working.
Insanity. Well, I mean, for example, in 2016, when everybody was running on the Republican ticket.
Sure.
I'm lean Republican. I wasn't a crazy conservative like I am now. But, I definitely lean Republican, so I was following up closely. And I liked, I even liked, before I knew anything, I liked Jeb Bush, I liked Ben Carson, I liked Rubio, Cruz, and Trump. And I grew up in New York. So Trump was a cultural icon growing up, just real estate, boxing, gambling, casinos. And he was on Oprah and Phil Donahue and everything like that, and everybody wanted to run for president. Then he announced he's going to run for president, and all his besties, these people that have been his best friend for 30 years, were literally lying on the news about him. And I wasn't a Trump fan. If I had to choose someone, I probably would have choose like Rubio or Carson at the time, when they first started announcing. I was, but I had my eyes on Trump and everything, and then they all started lying about him.
Yeah.
And I started saying, wait, that's not true. Wait, he's not a racist. I've seen him for 30 years. He's and I would start defending him, and I wasn't a Trump supporter, but I'm just saying that's not true. Wait, that's not. And all of a sudden, people think I'm a Trump psycho.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, I did think he had the best policy and everything else, and I knew his personality, having grown up with him as a part of my life somewhat in New York. But when he was defending Trump, I don't want to defend Trump on everything. There's things I disagree with. But when people lie about him, I'm forced to say, wait, you got to stop. And then I sound like a cheerleader.
Well, so what you're describing is exactly what happened with me and Jara, right? There are many things Jara's done as my time as a trustee that I'm like, I think you could have done that better. Or, I don't really agree with that, and I don't think you should take that to the board. Or, I don't think that you should do that.
Right. And people don't forget, people don't remember that Jara got his start through, I think it was Rick Scott, a Republican governor in Florida.
Yeah, people don't realize this, right? And that's okay, right? And they don't have to. It's not their job to actually do the historical data on everybody. I disagree with Jara on a lot of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like pro Jara all the time, right? If he does something wrong, I have that conversation with him. I have it offline with him, and I tell him, hey, you could have done this a lot better. Right.
Like a regular person.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
and this is a skill that I learned in the military, right? In the military, you have NCOs, right? They're professionals, right? Non-commissioned officers, and you don't punish NCOs in public. You take them in private, and you speak to them, right? And if at that point the behavior doesn't start to change, then there are avenues of approach that you can do that. Him being evaluated as a superintendent is one of our avenues of approach to do that, right? And the 3 trustees that are on the board, we haven't even had a chance to evaluate them.
The 3 new ones.
So like Lisa Guzman, myself, and Ellen Morales, we can't even evaluate him because he can't do his job.
He can't do his job,
right? And if you look at this entire year, Trustee Cepeda said this actually at our meeting. She said, not one thing this year have we focused on student achievement.
Well, that's what going to be what I'm getting ready to attach. It hasn't
focused on student achievement, and the whole year has been about this kind of like woke culture and drama, right? The gun resolution, all the anti-racism, all of this stuff is brought forward by Linda Cavazos and her little group of cronies that she has.
And that's what some people have done.
I was proudly doing a lot of work behind the scenes, right? So I would talk to the people who are writing these policies. I was like, hey, like, I'm not going to support this, but I think you would get a lot more support if you did this, whatever. And there was a lot of that work being done. And then the moment they got rid of Jara, I said, that's fine. You don't want to actually do this the right way? I will go ahead, and I know you disagree with me, but I will go off. I will do it on camera. I will show I will show everybody in the district how truly dysfunctional this board is on camera in front of everybody, so that the governor is either forced to take action or the voters are forced to take action.
Well, it sounds like you've been trying to.
I was trying to be nice.
Right, you're shooting warning shots in there all the time, with your needling and trying to bring attention to certain things. But then also, some people have said that he went from a Rick Scott Republican to a Democrat elitist or corporatist.
Oh, yeah, it's actually like the complete opposite.
You're saying he went from an elitist corporatist to a conservative Republican.
He's pretty conservative in a lot of things. like a lot of things. And I think Sarah actually did a story on him too, about his like Republican affiliations and things like that. Chiefs for Change is a pretty conservative group. He's part of that group, and because they understand that public education is failing, and there does need to be change in public education. Again, I'm pro school choice. I'm not anti public education.
Right.
Like it's just.
Right. I mean,
the two aren't congruent.
This is an example of you and Linda getting along. And we're throwing in a little bit more drama there. I don't know if you recognize the guy on screen.
I do.
But we figured we'd throw him in there just because it's a fan favorite.
Sure.
So let's prelude it with the question: is Lola Brooks and Jesus Jara have any relationships?
No, I think where this rumor got started is because she was a president for 2 consecutive years.
Which means you had to work with him, like you were saying.
And you're literally working with that superintendent. It wouldn't have mattered who the superintendent was. I guarantee you that rumor would not have been started had the superintendent been a woman.
I've even heard people, and I wasn't, it's not on the list, but people even say to me, "Oh, you're going to talk to Katie Williams? Did she sleep with Daisy?"
I know. I've had that question asked to me too, and I'm like, I see this person once or twice a month. I talk to him on the phone every now and then, right? We have our trustee briefings and things like that. Up until recently, I wasn't doing in-person briefings.
Are the same people who are screaming for more academic integrity being talked about at the school board meetings the same people who are asking you if Lola Brooks is sleeping with Jara or you're sleeping with Jara? I mean, is it?
No, it's not. The people that, I mean, I think the people, well, because, social media, right? I could say anything, right? Or I think it was Anna Binder that actually put out about Superintendent Jara's divorce, that he was going through a divorce. That she put that out, and then I think a couple months later someone found out about mine, and then they're like, oh my gosh, maybe that's it, right? Because it's easy to make connections.
Because you guys both got divorced within the same
around the same time,
year.
and so I'm like, it's easy to make connections, of course, but whether they're true or not, but everyone loves a good story.
We all give you the facts here. Katie Williams and Jara both got divorced at about the same time.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
I mean, it's true, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not. I mean, golly, I feel like people just, they see these things that happen in unison and then just assume that they're related. And
I think it's too much keeping up with the Kardashians.
Yes.
I hear Kim got a new boyfriend.
Yeah, I think she's dating Pete Davidson now.
Yeah, he...
This is
weird. We were talking to some other people, and we were saying we're thinking that he must be blessed.
He's not. Yeah, he's
in other categories that we might not be privy to. Because I don't see.
I stay out of entertainers' lives. I don't care about them, honestly.
All right, play tape.
Also, I just want to say, on my way out, Miss Brooks, you're the one that was sleeping with Dr. Jara. Is that right?
No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but he needs to be security. Will you please make sure that person is escorted out? Please leave. And that was totally out of line. Please remove him. Please remove him. Please remove him. I am sorry that happened, and I personally apologize to Trustee Brooks that person did that. I can handle this.
Can
please.
you?
Trustee Williams, please put your mask on.
I will in a second.
We will wait.
I will be leaving soon because my daughter has a Halloween pageant. It is clear to me that you cannot control your own boardroom. It is clear to this entire community that you cannot control your own boardroom.
Trustee Williams,
I do not believe in the mask. I was actually being very nice in doing this for most people.
You are out of line.
And I don't care. I don't work for you. Don't work
Please,
for you.
you're out of order.
I don't work for you.
Miss Miller, is she out of order or is she out of order?
Pretty sure I don't work for you.
I'm pretty sure you're out of order.
That's okay. That's your opinion. And you're an expert at your opinion. Don't we all know that?
If you are going to leave, Trustee Williams, then you need to leave now if you're not going to put your mask on. You are taking attention away from the really terrible
I'm pretty sure every time you don't kick out someone who outbursts in this room that you take the attention away from the actual thing.
Goodbye, Trustee Williams.
No, it's okay. I'll be here for just a second. Let me gather my things and I'll leave, and I'll pull a Trustee Ford and I'll leave because I didn't get my way.
I'm sorry. Please stop.
Oh, look at all of this craziness that you can't control, Linda.
Please put your mask on. We cannot
Please control your room.
Please remember that you work for these people.
And I'll see them in 2024.
Trustee Williams, we cannot have different rules for the trustees than we do have for our constituents,
Except
our
for you,
children,
right?
and our parents. You please put your mask on.
I think a recess would be a great idea.
No, we are not doing a
Can we get
recess.
an
We're not
opinion
going to
from our
recess? Why
attorney?
not?
Right,
You can't have a
let's-
conversation. You
okay,
can't
I'm
like
sorry.
put on the carpet for anybody.
I'm
Because
sorry.
you can't answer for your own issues because you went behind everyone's back and did this.
We need some help here. Can one of our
All right,
attorneys please
excuse me,
intervene?
what we are going to do,
The officers want a recess, Linda.
No,
The
Katie, we're
officers
not
want
going to do that.
They said it. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure they
please.
want it.
This
Please.
seems like
And
an
aren't
attempt
we
to
supposed
close
to listen to the
meeting down.
Is
And I don't wanna do
Cecily,
that.
is Cecily here?
This seems like an
All right.
attempt to close a
Here's
meeting
what
down.
we're
I don't
going
think
to
I was
do.
talking to you, Danielle.
I'm
Here's
talking to
what
our
we're going
attorney.
to do. Shh. Yes.
But there's no safety issues right now.
All right. All right.
Oh, God.
You know what? You know what? We're not going to do a recess. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put on the record that I have asked several times for Trustee Williams to follow the same rules that we ask our children, our parents, our constituents, and many of whom do not agree. But we are going to move on.
Lola,
and
would you
just
like to
put
come
on
with me?
We are just going to put on the record that she has declined, and because you guys have been here so long, we're moving on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Miss
I've been
Gallup,
saying things about Linda
go
all
ahead.
night.
Go ahead, Ms. Gallup. Go ahead.
I'm
Yes.
much louder than a microphone.
Go ahead. No racist.
Where's my garbage? There we go.
All right. Trustee Williams, you leave me no other choice. If you continue talking, I'm going to ask Mr. French to cut your mic, and I do have the authority
It's
to do
okay,
that.
Mr. French. You can cut my mic.
All right. Thank
There,
you.
now it's my permission.
Miss
It's my
Gallup,
choice.
you are
Not that you give anyone else a choice.
You are taking time
That's
away
okay.
from a constituent.
That's all right. You take the time away from everyone. All the time. In closed sessions, on this board, in briefings. Oh, I don't care.
Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. I am flippin' mortified. That is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. And these people are in charge of 300,000 children's education. And your little friend there, Katie, who I agree with 100%. Cavazos is an incapable person to be in that position. She shouldn't be in that position. The masks are BS. Get them off our kids. Get them off the trustees. Get them off the people in the crowd. The whole thing is ridiculous. I agree with her 100%, and she makes me sick. That is not how I want my argument presented. They are like a bunch of 7th grade girls, and I know 7th grade girls. I teach them, and they're worse. These trustees are worse. All right, so I just wanted to at least, say it to your face.
No, I actually watched the episode. It's fine. So I still 100% mean everything I said. I don't take anything back. I was very angry because all of these things we've been trying to accomplish behind closed doors, and we hear a lot of comment where like everyone's like, you're acting like 7th grade girls, take it in the back, figure it out, right? We have been trying, and it wasn't working. And so at that moment, that's why Linda, she has no idea how to run a boardroom, which is why she gets so angry with me, because she knows she has what she should have done, because security at the time where it's like, oh, recess sounds like a great idea, right? The police officers, the security were saying like, hey, recess the meeting so we can figure this out, because there was an issue going on outside of the boardroom. And so then there was like people chanting, and there's people going crazy, and there's people going nuts. And so in that situation, what you do is you do recess the meeting.
And not to be insulting, but I'm sure it's not the first time a board member has totally And I'm not saying you lost your mind.
No, it's
but a board member surely sometime in history has started spouting off where we had to either turn off their mic or call a recess or hold them in contempt. Or there has to be an avenue.
So she can't hold me in contempt.
Yeah,
Again,
but she can do something.
Because she's the board president, she could have called a recess, and that's what she should have done, right? To figure this out, we could have actually all gone in the back, right? And we could have figured it out, and then we could have came up back forward
and looked like professionals.
And probably look like professionals, probably.
Right. But you keep doing it because she won't turn it off.
Because she won't do it.
And you're telling her, turn off my mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, do it. Go ahead. Like,
have a recess.
I'm a lot louder than a microphone. I promise you. You know.
Right. But she didn't look like she knew what to do.
She had no idea. But that's the thing. She got scared. She didn't know what to do. She had no avenue to do that with. You know, like she just doesn't know. And that's the thing. And that's why I kept poking her and poking her and poking her. I really hoped that she would have recessed it and we could have gone in the back. And I'm like, you know what? That's it. I'm done. I don't care. I'm done. Sometimes people have to understand that we're people. Right. We're people too.
Right.
And there are moments where you just lose your temper. I didn't lose. I don't.
Right. So you stand by what you said.
I was pretty mad, but
I admit that you were mad, and maybe if you weren't mad.
I admit that I was mad.
Right.
But everything I said was 100% the truth, and I stand by it to this day.
Another thing that a lot of people like me had a problem with was that during this, you're saying, I'm going to go to a pageant.
Oh, yeah. So I actually addressed this later on, too, which is kind of funny. It's not funny. I probably shouldn't laugh, but oh well. My daughter actually did go to a parade the very next day, and I had to get her a costume, and I did not... I don't know why. I think I was just so mad that I was just like, anything that came out of my brain was coming out of my mouth, right? And so, no, I didn't go to a pageant that night. I think people were like, oh, she went to Ichabod's. I'm like, yeah, so what?
But you left early.
I did leave, yeah.
And that was just as a protest, or that wasn't for your daughter's pageant?
No, I personally just had enough. I had enough of her. I had enough of the whole situation because we were briefed, and I can say this because it's already been out there. We were briefed prior to this meeting that if we were to go through and firing Jara, terminating him for convenience, that because there's like all of this evidence that we have, that there's a possible open meeting law violation, that there's, because Trustee Cavazos had said something about it on a press conference, all this stuff, because there was a cause, there was something that they had to look at.
Right, because there's a big difference. For those of you who don't know, that cause is Jara misappropriated funds or stole something or something.
Committed a crime.
So we're going to fire him for cause. For convenience means the Board of Trustees doesn't agree with what he's doing, so they just want to fire him. We'll work for a right to work state, so we're just going to let you go. We'll pay your contract, but we don't need your services.
Right, and because she had said some of those things on a press conference that is still there, and then she went on another press conference and lied about saying it, but I'm like, well, it's video evidence, so no reason to lie, but okay.
Right.
Because she had said that, we were briefed prior to that meeting that if we were to go through with terminating his contract, that he could sue us for a lot of money.
Which he's already
he's now looking at doing anyway. So
anywhere between $2 and $5 million, I've heard.
Yeah, so that's what's silly to me because we were briefed on this prior to, and I said that at that point. I said you went behind everyone's back and did this, and you have a problem with being called to the carpet. That entire closed session, she kept digging at me and digging at me and digging at me. So I just kept digging back at her because she thinks because she's older than me that she's going to intimidate me.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
Right. She's your elder.
I'm the youngest one on that board, and I'm probably the meanest. Like, I'm just going to be honest about it. I can be very mean and vindictive if I choose to be. I don't like to be, because I think that there are more effective ways of doing things.
Are you enjoying yourself?
On the board?
Yeah.
It's such an open-ended question.
Mark of a good reporter.
I truly, truly love being a trustee and helping people when they call on me to help them. And I get a lot of calls at 10 o'clock at night. I get a lot of calls at 6 o'clock in the morning. I talked to a teacher this morning at 7:30.
You got a big pork barrel?
A big pork barrel? Is that a...
Yeah, you know what pork barrel is?
No.
Oh, you're new to politics. Pork barrel is when a politician...
It's not in the deep state, that's it.
No. Like a politician, everybody calls their politicians.
Sure.
Oh, this is going on. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? DMV's a pain in the neck. Unemployment's a pain. So they write it down and they put it in their pork barrel. So then they
I
have their
see.
assistants or whatever say, oh, you got to call, Shadow Ridge, they have an American flag problem.
Yeah,
oh, you got to call this.
I have notes that I take down and then just go to my
and
emails.
that's your pork barrel.
Yeah.
And what happens is either you address the pork barrel where you can on your own by leaning on people, by
Yeah.
calling a principal and saying, hey, so-and-so is trying to take their SAT, they got
Yeah.
disqualified, can you look into this? Or the pork barrel is next time we pass a motion on the board, we're going to throw that in there too, so that way we
Yeah.
can make sure we're getting a playground at the elementary school by my house.
heard that. I've never heard that term. But yeah, I do my best. In fact, I met what's his name, City Councilman Churchio.
Okay.
At a community meeting that I was having, and he had asked me a question about one of my elementary schools. I guess they turn the streetlights off at night, and it was presenting to be a dangerous place. And he only said it because he's a concerned citizen and he lives right next to the school.
Right, he just happens to be...
and he walks his dog at night, and he's like, man, this is a pretty dangerous area. Like, I don't understand why this is a thing. So he asked me, he's like, hey, can you look into this, right? Well, I did. I sent out an email, and I put Joe Caruso in it, who's our board liaison, and I said, hey, like, I really want to eventually get what's going on here, right? And they come back, and apparently it was just the timers were off.
Right.
So they were on during the day and off at night.
Right, and you making a phone call as a trustee makes all the difference.
Right. Now, is Councilman Churchio, like, he doesn't have kids in the district or anything like that. It doesn't matter for him, truly. Like, if it were him, like, does that matter to him?
Right.
Well, I mean, probably not. He probably could have just gotten over it, right?
Right.
But it matters to the school district, and it matters to the kids that live in that area.
And it could prevent.
And it could prevent a lot of crime, right? I mean, crime doesn't get done in the light usually; it's in the dark.
So now? This is my question regarding Jara, and I could be totally wrong. It looks to me like, as of now, he could either come back,
Sure,
and fulfill his $400,000 a year contract, or he could say, I'm going to leave and I'm going to demand $2 million.
Yes.
And not work. So he could either work with you guys, God bless him, for $400,000, or he could go back to Florida for $2 million. So I'm guessing he's not going to come back.
I have no idea what he's going to do.
Am I right in my...
You're half right.
Close?
You're
Am I
half
close?
right? So his options are as of now, right? He could come back. The thing is, that doesn't stop his lawsuit.
It's already down. Oh, well, it's for the harassment.
For the hostile work environment, he could still technically take us to court over a hostile work environment if we don't put assurances in to change that stuff. The problem is that we've disrupted his employment contract.
Right, he got rid of his executive board.
So here's the thing: he could still threaten us and say, "Hey, we're going to do this. I'll come back if we renegotiate my contract. If we do this, if we do that, right?"
And he's got everybody by the...
And here's the thing: he can.
Right.
And the reason why...
He's got all the cards.
But here's why he can. We let him. We let him by terminating him on the 28th. We let him because we did not heed the board attorney's advice or general counsel's advice. We didn't heed that advice. They terminated him.
And Mac Miller had spoke prior to the firing.
Yes.
That you guys need to look long and hard at the legal ramifications of such a move.
And we had long discussions about this. When this popped up on the board, we're like, what? Like on the agenda, I was like, what in the world? We're like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like he's got, first off, he had 14 months left on his contract. I'm like, and he's not in the PER system at that point.
Right.
You could have just let the contract run out and dealt with it for a year.
Well, that's what I was saying originally.
Like, deal with it.
Right.
Like, get over it.
For another year.
And if you don't like him, then at that point, do another superintendent search. Don't renew the contract.
If you do like him.
Because in May, here's what we did in May. In May, we changed language in his contract so that it didn't automatically renew. That's why there was that big issue in May, because his contract, had we not done it properly, it would have automatically renewed. He would have automatically gotten 2 more years and then gotten into the PER system. We changed that to put that in place so that he didn't get into the PER system, so that he didn't automatically renew.
Right.
And we kept him around for 18 months.
PERS is going to be giving him $250,000 a year.
The rest of his life.
And that's what Skorkowski got.
Yes.
I remember when I first started digging in. Now you're bringing back some memories of my original
and so this is why. So
investigations.
people may not trust me. They may not understand. But I'm like, I promise there's a method to this madness that you just may not understand it. But I am trying. But here's the thing. What can I say? more than what I've already said.
Right.
People are going to choose to listen to me or not. And the problem is these special interest agendas or these super little crazy vendettas. And here's the thing. No racism in schools hates my guts. That's fine. I don't like them either. They celebrated the fact that Jara was gone. If that tells anybody anything, it should tell you that Jara was probably the one standing in their way.
If you're anti-racism.
Yes.
And, and we ran out, I had some clips of a lady talking about, if you're against anti-racism, you are a racist, full stop.
Yeah, I remember that.
Two nights ago. And it really bothered me. I'm thinking of inviting her on the show.
Yeah, you should.
I mean,
she actually seems like a pretty logical person that you
could
could talk to.
She said that over and over. Hey, I can talk to you. You can talk to me. I'm not here to fight and quit.
And I've never met her. I bet she's probably very nice.
That's what
she didn't attack us on the board. And I'll tell people this now. Here, if you come to the school board meeting, don't yell at us. We're not going to listen. Like, just talk. Talk to us. I'm up there taking notes.
Literally.
Take notes. I circle names because we get a list of
you're
people
not
that are
shopping for shoes on Amazon. That's what everybody thinks you're doing.
Oh, really?
Everybody thinks you're shopping for shoes.
First off, I don't buy my shoes on Amazon. Okay, not to sound like a priss, but I don't buy shoes on Amazon.
Be odd.
I'm just saying, they're not good for your posture or your feet. But yeah.
All right. One of the big topics last night was appointing a sex ed committee.
Sure.
Now, this is we could talk for 9 hours.
Sure.
For example, I lost my train of thought. I'm thinking sex ed and I'm thinking something else. But nonetheless, we're talking about sexual education. I was talking about the restorative justice is brought by the state. It's not by the school of trustees. And we don't have to talk about this.
Yeah, no, I'll just, and I say this on the record a couple times, actually. I was like, most of the things that we have to approve on the board come from the state.
And you're just implementing the laws.
We have to.
Right. So now we're also, and that restorative justice, I believe, is one of the biggest reasons we're losing support staff and bus drivers because kids are so disrespectful and there's no discipline.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the sex ed. Now they're implementing that we have to have a committee. Now we look at this committee.
That committee's been here for a while, FYI.
Right, but now we're starting a new one.
No.
We're appointing members to this one.
They get appointed every 2 years.
Okay.
So that committee's been around for however long they started implementing sex education in the state of Nevada. They get reappointed every 2 years. They have to be appointed.
Okay.
Right, and the board
and there's
has to
about 10 of them. Mm-hmm. 5 of them are Democrats, and 5 of them are unaffiliated.
Yeah, they're like parents and stuff like that.
Right. So, so the whole committee is Democrats. Now, even if we were to, say, vote in 3 more conservatives to the school board, and you and 3 more conservatives win in 2022, this deep state is still backlogged and full.
And so that's the problem,
people
right?
People pushing this agenda.
That's the problem. So Senator Ben Sasse wrote a book. I think he's a Nebraskan senator. I'm pretty sure.
I think so too.
He wrote a book called The Vanishing American Adult, and his wife is a homeschool teacher of 35 years. Super good book. Download the audiobook if you don't like to read. I don't know. But it goes over a century of education. And from the moment that public education, the Office of Public Education started.
That was Woodrow Wilson?
Yes, I think so.
Because obviously I don't see anything about education in the Constitution, so the federal government has no authority over
right. So when the Department of
Education
Education on the federal level side started, that's really when education started going downhill. The problem is that we conservatives ignore education, and that's our biggest downfall.
For 80 years.
It's our biggest downfall because I get it, and I said this morning in an event, it is very, very easy for us to get looped into the stars and the awe and the glitz and the glam of the congressionals, the Senate races, and the presidential races.
Right.
That is not where we make our change.
Well, I believe we're evolving.
I think so too, and I hope so. And I hope in 2022 I see some conservatives actually come up onto this board, or I see conservatives come up into the legislature or the city councils or county commissions. It doesn't matter, right? Because our federal laws are based off the state laws that are passed. Right. And who passes the state laws? State legislators.
All politics is local.
All politics is local. And if
Katie Williams affects my life a lot more than Joe Biden.
Absolutely, I do, right? And that people don't understand that because they're like, oh, Joe Biden's doing this terrible thing, and Kamala Harris is terrible, and
well, I was going to have a caveat because actually Joe Biden has affected my life way more than any president should.
Honestly, I hate $4 gas, right? but just in general, right? people hated Trump for everything he did, when half the things that he did he just had his name on it, right? As the governor, you sign laws that the legislation passed.
Yes, that's right.
Right? So, of course, it's going to have the governor's name on it.
Right.
And the governor is going to
But
get
he's not the
blamed
one who
for it.
wrote the law,
He's not the
or
one
the
who
one
wrote
who
it.
negotiated or anything.
I'm not saying the governor's perfect. He definitely screws some stuff up that I don't agree with, but I'm not going to say. But anyways.
All right, and well, I'm sorry, Mac. I was gonna play you showing the thing in the books that are in the CCSD libraries. This is becoming a continuing to explode, showing pictures of pedophilia, of gay and lesbian sex and stuff like that in books that are accessible to anywhere from elementary, middle school, or high school students. The normalization of the LGBT movement in elementary school. For example, we were talking, I think, the other day, and setting this up, is about, who you go home and sleep with. We're here talking about the school board.
Yeah.
We could be talking about your child's education, but who you go home and sleep with is, I don't care. It's
Yeah.
not
It's not my business who you have in your bedroom.
And elementary kids are not having boyfriends, girlfriends, or having sex. Like, why are we having to address...
So I actually make a couple points during our last board meeting, and I said Nevada is one of 3 states that has an opt-in sexual education program. There is a basic level of sex ed that you get. It talks about your body, your biological changes, all that stuff, right? Whatever.
A boy has a penis, a girl has a vagina.
Perfect, right? That has to be taught. That's a
Of course.
federal law, right?
And that should be how a baby's
However, when you talk to, when you get into like the sexual ideology classes, things like that, that stuff has to be opted into.
Yeah, can we run it as an elective? Like, that way we don't have to worry about what school we're sending our kids to.
But it has to be opted into. That's what I'm saying. Like, students should not, I'm not saying they're not. They should not be getting that information.
Right.
Unless the parent has said it's okay for them to get it.
Right.
We're one of 3 states that has an opt-in, not an opt-out thing.
And that's great.
Which is great. We want that.
Like,
we want that. We want every state to have that, actually opt-in.
You
However,
could take robotics, or you could take sexual LGBTs.
Yeah, whatever,
class.
right? As far as the books go, when people say like, oh, there's like this book and that book and this whatever, that doesn't come to the board, right? And if there are books in your students' libraries that like really are depicting really terrible things and shouldn't be there, there's a couple avenues of approach you can go to. You can go to your principal, because everything runs through the principal. Those books should be approved by the principal. If the principal doesn't know that book's there, then that's a problem.
And if the principal approved it?
That's also a problem. There's also an appeal process there too. And then at that point, right, come to the trustees. Call me directly.
What's your number?
309-267-9508. You can put it right there on the little screen.
All right. And you've got this new annoying habit.
Oh, what do I do?
And I love it.
Oh, God.
But it's really
said
annoying.
this before and you wouldn't tell me.
Can you go to 245 of the other video?
You didn't tell me.
Skip the Mac Miller, but go to the... This one? Maybe. What's that, 245?
It says 245.
No, this is the school board meeting. I didn't give it to you? Oh, now I know. All right.
Okay, so tell me what
I don't need the evidence, but
do.
this is your new annoying, but I like it habit of yours.
Okay.
Which I wish you did during the Jara stuff, because you ran on
and honestly, looking back, I feel like I should have done this a lot more.
A lot more communication.
And also,
you already know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, I think I actually know what you're talking about.
All right, because yesterday at the school board meeting, you did it at least twice. I didn't get through the whole thing. I tried so hard to prepare for this.
That's okay.
I couldn't get through the whole thing. But you do this thing now, like right before a vote, you look at the audience and you say, listen, I'm not dictating sexual policy right now. The government says we have to have a committee.
Sure. And
we're approving the committee. That's all I'm doing now. And you say, and you're explaining now to people what you're voting on, that, so that way they understand, that you're not, doing whatever. And like I said, I wish you had done this as your evolution.
Yeah, I actually agree. I wish I would have done this a lot more in general. Also, keep in mind, I was kind of going through some personal issues then, and like I think my brain was just like, I don't care. Like, I just want to get done with this right now. I actually had stated yesterday on my Instagram too. I was like, hey, I'm doing 2 events tomorrow talking about education. Should I go live after this? I want to do more of those things because I find that it does help voters understand a little bit what's going on. Right. Because again, mom and dad they're working. They want to come home. But yeah, I found that me doing this allowed not only the audience that was there, but the people that are online to actually, especially if they're paying attention, be like, oh, that's why.
Right. And
that's why. So it's not we're appointing this sex ed sexologist, whatever, who's going to give all of our kids sex toys, whatever.
They're saying, this is what we're voting on.
We have to do this because there is an NRS that states this, and this is what we have to do. Like, this is a law. We have to do it.
Right. And that's
whether
all I'm doing.
whether I agree with it or not, it's a law. We have to implement it.
But, like
I did the
said,
same thing during the redistricting too, actually, I think.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I've seen it at least 5 times now. You're doing that, and I'm like, all right, Katie, I get it. But
you get it.
Right,
but others don't.
I'm annoyed, and I like it. Don't get me wrong. I hope you keep doing it.
Gonna say,
and I'm still going to roll my eyes when you do it.
You get it because you pay attention to the board meetings.
Right.
Mom and dad who just got off a 12-hour shift and just picked up their kid and then are just listening.
Sex ed, Katie says
That's exactly why, right?
Okay. But then, like I said, I wish you did this early because, again, I still to this day haven't given an opinion whether I want Jara there or I don't want Jara there. But after the vote and you got mad, I don't know if you did it in a comment or you said something to somebody, but that, you got to understand that, if we lose Jara, what is in his place?
I said that.
And I didn't know then,
I said that.
But since then, and you got my curiosity going. Next thing I hear is the 2 favorites are Chris G and Joni Ebert. Mm-hmm. One's like a communist and one's like a super progressive. Mm-hmm. And both of them are not what I'm looking for as a superintendent.
Well, you got to understand, why did Linda and Danielle and Lisa want him gone? Well, it's because he kept telling them no. Right, and Irene was very upset. She's like, we haven't focused on student achievement one time this year.
And we need to talk about Irene.
Okay, we can talk about Irene.
Holy cow, what's up with her?
She got mad. She was mad this last board meeting.
But she's like,
well,
back
so
and
here's
forth
the thing.
This whole story of Jara is Irene Guzman changing her mind.
So Irene Cepeda.
I'm sorry, Irene Cepeda changing her mind.
We are, as elected officials, charged with an obligation to mitigate damage, enforce laws that are in the country, right, that are there, and speak for the people, right? That is my charge as an elected official. Right? You voted me in. I'm speaking for you. I'm informing you of what's going on. I'm here to mitigate any damage done to our kids. Right? That's what my job is.
I haven't heard the kids or academics brought up in a long time. But continue.
I know, that's what's unfortunate, right? But Trustee Cepeda we had an open meeting law violation. Absolutely, we did.
What?
Right? There's evidence of.
Explain.
Okay. Explain open meeting law?
Yeah, explain the open meeting law violation.
Okay, so
and why it's important.
Here's what happened. So again, like I said to you earlier, there can't be more than 3 trustees in a briefing. Okay. At the same time, if you have an agenda item on a agenda going towards the board, right? We have to post it 5 business days in advance of a board meeting, all that stuff. Once those agendas go out, I don't actually talk to the other trustees because I don't want to talk to them.
For 5 days.
I don't talk to them for 5 days. Like if I do, it's like, oh, hey, are you bringing your daughter to this? Right? But it's never about the board meeting, okay? Because if I start talking to one of the board trustees, they can only talk to one other person about that item.
Right. So if you tell Katie Williams, hey, look, I ran on getting rid of Jara. I think this is a great thing. How are you going to vote? Maybe that's okay. But then if Danielle turns to Irene Cepeda and says, hey, I know, Katie's going to vote no because that's what she ran on and she doesn't like this, that, or the other thing. And that's okay.
That's okay.
But then if
Danielle talks to a different trustee or
right, because now you talk to Danielle and someone else.
And she talked. That's 4 people. So 4 people can know that opinion, run a serial meeting, and that's an open meeting law violation. That's what happened, right? And here's why we know this. Right? This is why we're doing all the FOIA requests.
Are we allowed to talk about this, or are we going to be speaking hypothetically?
Well, these are all FOIA requests. These are all out in the open. Right. And Trustee Cepeda said, I have a strong belief that there was an open meeting law violation. I would like a third-party investigation.
And you have details on what she specifically like?
Well,
Linda emailed someone?
Here's what I can tell you as far as this goes. To get an agenda item on there, if you're whatever, you have to have three written requests from trustees.
Okay.
to put that item to terminate Jara for convenience was put on by 3 trustees. Lisa Guzman, Danielle Ford, and Linda Cavazos.
Okay.
There's 3. They all know.
Right.
If either one of them talk to anybody else,
You, Irene,
that's
anyone.
an open meeting law violation.
Because that is a fourth person
That's a fourth
conspiring to vote or get
And
something.
we don't know yet if that conversation happened.
But with the FOIA
But when
request,
Trustee Cepeda says, I know for a fact there was an open meeting law
that means
violation,
she probably got somebody texted her, meaning...
I can't say that because I don't know.
Right, but that's the insinuation, and we can't say that as stone cold fact.
So that's the point, right? That's why we had to bring that item back, to mitigate damage, to help our community, to bring the, because would you rather pay out $2.6 million or $400,000?
Right. Right. And would you rather have Jared...
And not only that, because then not only we would pay out $2.6 million, right? But we'd also have to hire a firm to fire a superintendent.
Right.
And with every single new superintendent contract, the salary goes up.
So, right, if Jara's taking home $420 and on the books, what is it, $298
So
or
it's
something like
$320 is his base
$320.
salary, but then he has like all these extra perks, right?
Right, Pelotons and stuff.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, there's actually a wellness thing in his contract.
No,
and that's
I read
why
that.
it's there. And then
I
everyone
covered
gets so
that
upset.
when
They're
I
like, a
first did it.
Peloton. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever.
Well, because they had like a
I know.
$4,800 stipend, meaning he could spend $400
But here's the thing.
on a
Here's
thing.
what people don't know, and I know we're really running out of time, but there was a law passed in the last legislative session that said that, like CEOs can't have like all these extra perks, like can't have car allowance, can't have this. So what Nevada's been doing for these corporate CEOs to kind of around that, they just up the base salary.
Right. 6 of one, half a dozen of another.
They don't care.
So anyway, anybody we get is going to demand more than Jara.
Yeah.
Because Jara in 2018 got this. It's
Absolutely.
2022.
And it's 2022.
And Joe Biden.
Yeah.
10% inflation.
See? So people, but that's what's so hard. And I understand it's so easy.
That would be a raise for you, huh?
For
if
me?
you got the superintendent job,
Oh.
that would be a little bit of a raise from the trustee salary.
$750 a month to $320,000 a year. Sure, I don't want that job.
For $320,000 a year.
Do you see what happens on our board?
It's like the old adage. Would you kiss a toad for $1 million?
Yeah, I know, honestly, right? It's like, I'm not gay, but $20 is $20, right? Twitter's gonna hate me for that one later. That's okay, I don't care.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna, we're gonna spend 2 hours talking about the issues.
That's what
10 seconds is gonna be like, oh, Katie will be gay for $20.
But so it's funny because and okay, so going back to my original point, like it's very easy to get angry with what's in front of you. It's very easy to do that, right? Because
like me, you were whining at Linda, and I got mad, and it's right in front of me. I'm watching Katie act like an idiot. I'm like, Katie, I hate you.
But you don't know what's going on behind.
That's what
you also don't know what's coming ahead.
Right.
And so
that's why you're here. We're trying to get some insight.
And that's why I try to be very calm in these board meetings. So all this chaos, sometimes people say like, Katie just causes chaos and she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm like, don't I though? Like,
all right. Well, listen, we're only over by 40 minutes so far.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So we're only going to go over by 2 hours maximum.
Okay.
All right, no matter what.
No problem.
So this is what some of the people in the public have been asking. I want to start with somebody. It's a constituent of yours.
Sure.
And she wrote a really nice letter. So I wanted to start with her. She wrote a letter? All right. Her name is Libby. She's a mother of 4.
Okay.
And she wrote, after telling me what a great show the Johnny Bruce Show is.
Yeah, good.
So after that,
good
wonderful.
Plug, I like that.
Yeah, and that's probably why she got a question in. The other people said, I hate you, Johnny Brew, and as Katie Williams this, and you didn't get it.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. As Katie's constituent, I see infighting within the board, flip-flopping with Jara's superintendent status, trustees opening investigations, critical race theory being incorporated, liberal candidates running for the sex education board, and based off the attire of some teachers at the board meetings, indoctrination of teachers' political beliefs on the children. I also see children fighting every day in school. Children not being able to either wear or place the American flag on their vehicles, and am quite concerned about the masks the children are forced to wear each day with the possibility of forced vaccine mandates for K-12. As my board of trustee, how would you rank each issue by most important and how would you address them? Or maybe your top 3
Oh,
issues.
that's a lot of issues.
I know. What do you think is the most important issue facing?
Well, first, Libby, I want to thank you for your question because that's a pretty broad question, and I would encourage you to call me. So, and I've given out my number twice, and Johnny, you
Go ahead, give the phone number.
309-267-9508. I haven't changed my phone number in 10 years, so I understand the concern over all of these because I too have a daughter in kindergarten, and she's in Clark County School District, and so I am affected by all of these as well. I don't think I can rank them as far as which one's more important. I would think that as a teacher and as a parent, your job is to protect your children at all costs.
Right.
And if you don't feel like the district is doing that or they are failing, and I understand it's not as easy as just, oh, we'll just pull them out of this school and put them in this school.
Right.
I know that's the reality of it. It's that's not easy.
Right.
I would do my best to find avenues of approach to get, like my children's advocate, get them involved. I'm going to give them a little plug because I was talking to them this morning. So getting these organizations involved and finally waking up parents.
Very good.
Because that's all you can do, honestly. Because some of those issues where some are like, okay, CRT, LGBT, all this stuff, some of those may not be issues to other parents, but the masks could be.
Right. And that's why I think she was asking what yours are and some specifics.
I think they're all very equally important to me.
And we're going to go through a potpourri of questions from the public.
Thank you, Libby. I would encourage her to reach out to me for sure.
Yeah, and Libby, some of your things are going to be addressed right here in more particular. Somebody asked who broke open meeting law and how.
We already talked
you just
about that.
addressed that. That was wonderful. Did you meet Jara at Ichabod's after you left that meeting on the 28th?
Yeah, I already said that earlier too. So I was like, I sure did.
What was that beer like?
I
mean, they're all sitting there taking care of business, and you're at the bar with Jara.
Oh, I told them. I said, bye, I'm leaving. So, and they knew I went, so it wasn't a secret. It's not like I hid it. If I was trying to hide something, I don't think I would have said it.
Another thing, though, is that, again, you guys are all regular people.
We're all
people. So you and Jara must be sitting there having a drink thinking, what is going on around us?
Yeah, I had enough, Johnny. I really did. I was like, these people are insane, and you know what? If you sue us, then I totally get it. We were warned when we didn't listen. Well, I listened to everything, and people are just like, all right, whatever.
Generic question. The American flag situation at Shadow Ridge.
Yeah, that was, I guess. So people get hit on me a lot for it. They're like, oh,
hey,
you're not,
baby.
Yeah. They're not paying. Katie's not paying attention, and there's all these threats of violence. We get need to know information all the time, daily, multiple times a day, if there's something going on at a school in our district.
Right. So if there's a gun found, you get notified.
There's nothing that I don't know that's going on in my district. Just because I don't address everything, I don't make statements about it, because I'm allowing them to do their job.
Right.
Right?
Right. You're not supposed to micromanage.
I'm not supposed to micromanage, but as a trustee, I should know about it, right? So this happened at Arborview. This happened at Shadow Ridge. There was a couple. I think it actually happened at Legacy High School, too, which is all 3 of my schools. Seriously, I think they had a policy that they couldn't, and then either the kids, it was a huge misunderstanding at Shadow Ridge, and a bigger misunderstanding at Arborview was the end all of it. Right.
Just talking about school policy, what's allowed.
But they said that. But then, the thing that I got, the email I got says, hey, here's the policy on flags on students. Here's our policy on flags on whatever. And I'm like, okay, none of it makes sense, but I think maybe you guys should look at reevaluating this. But I understand if it's causing a distraction, like people are being ridiculous.
Right.
I grew up in the Midwest. Right. Trucks and tractors had American flags posted on the back.
A shotgun in Iraq.
Yeah, I'm not that old. Just saying. But you have trucks, and I see them driving around town in Vegas. You got a big Trump flag, you got a big "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and they're sitting in the back of the tailgate. You're just driving down the road.
Right.
I don't have a problem with any of that.
Right.
I don't think people.
Well, that supports your ideology. What about BLM flag or Rainbow Coalition flag?
Don't care either. It's not my vehicle. I don't give a crap.
Linda Cavazos bumper stickers.
Oh, I just think they're funny. Honestly, I'm like, don't tell me I'm a partisan hack, and then have them all, and then clearly, but whatever. So.
But on that Rainbow Coalition, why another person asked, why are there so many LGBT?
I think I covered that too, but that stuff has to go through the principal. So if you find a book that you deem as inappropriate, you definitely need to talk to your principal.
All right, this is important. Mm-hmm. What are we going to do? for teachers, support substitutes, support staff, bus drivers. We don't have a school nurse in every school. We have a lack of resources for substitutes.
I wish I had a better answer for you other than the fact that like the profession of teaching does not have enough people to recruit from.
And why is that?
Because public education has been slowly being chipped away, and it's just being
I'm
terrible.
just going to keep doing this. And why is that?
But that's because it's these policies, right? Some teachers, it's unfortunate when teachers have to teach something they don't agree with, right? And I get you, like, you're not supposed to agree with it. Like a history teacher is like, well, I don't agree with what Napoleon did, but you still have to teach it.
Right, he did it.
He did it,
Right.
but I don't agree with what Hitler did, but you still have to teach it. Right? I feel very, very disheartened for these teachers that are just like, I quit. I can't do this anymore.
It's like an epidemic.
Because if you go into teaching, you don't go into it for the money. You go into it for the love of learning and student achievement and things like that. To see a child have that aha moment, like, oh my God, I finally got it, right? Like that is, and I did this as a recruiter, right? That's one of those moments that you can't unsee, right? Because you change that kid's life forever, right? I have one teacher that I remember, and he was my 5th grade math teacher, and his name was Mr. Lund. I am a terrible math student. Terrible. Maybe you could tutor me, Johnny. I don't know. But I remember things that he taught me that helped me for the rest of my. And it wasn't because he taught me the normal way. He taught me because he understood my brain was just different.
Right.
And he just
tried
changed,
to understand where you were coming from.
And he just changed the way I learned. And I was like, boom, perfect.
If you really wanted good math tutoring, play tape.
Oh.
Nice cheap little plug there, Infinity the Math Institute.
Yeah.
Don't get more math problems, get solutions.
But in general, I feel very bad for our teachers, our substitute, and our staff members because
especially the school staff.
I will say that a lot of them they're really trying, but I don't.
They are.
But
I
don't blame them for just being like,
right. But then
I'm out.
A question I have is like, on a whim, you guys approved $43 million for a bunch of new Chromebooks or Emoca or this or that, the other thing. But then we can't take Monday and Tuesday off of school because of the support staff. And meanwhile, I think if you just count the bus drivers, say you're talking about like $18,000 at the most to throw them a couple of days' pay and enjoy Thanksgiving themselves. I mean, I understood the reason. I think it was you who voted against it.
I voted against. Well, I didn't vote against it. I just more so, and I asked the question to clarify. And I said, why can't we do this? The reason why I was actually opposed to it was the students who would not get meals. There are legitimate, during the pandemic, we saw so many bad things. These students don't get meals. The only time they eat is at school. And even at school, they're not getting, 5-star meals. These are not good meals. Half of it's cardboard.
Right. The more they try, the worse the food seems to get.
Right, and that's also not a district policy.
That's another state law.
That's another state federal thing, right? Like we can't. The people in the food service in CCSD, they do try. That's why they were doing like food deliveries and things like that. They wanted to, and they had the pop-up kitchens or pop-up meals or whatever. Right. Even during the pandemic, because they closed them down on the weekends, they were allowing students to take 2 or 3 meals.
And just, I mean, by all means, I love kids. If a kid's hungry, I'm going to feed him. If a kid needs a pair of shoes, I'll give him my shoes before I do anything else, But is it CCSD's responsibility to feed the children? Now,
it's not.
Understand that argument.
It's not. You're right. It's not. I also believe that it takes a village to raise a child.
All right, Hillary.
No, it's not even that. It's okay. I'll give you a good example. My daughter, sitting in the other room. Okay. I am not a cook. I can clean. Right? I'm not a homemaker. I don't know how to sew. I don't know how to make jewelry, or if I use a hot glue gun, I'll probably burn myself. Right? I'm not crafty. I'm not from this era of homemaking type of women. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
I just wasn't raised like that. I cannot teach my daughter those things unless I learn them myself, right? Then I have to take away time doing other things to learn those things to teach her, right? I have a friend of mine here in Las Vegas who used to own a craft shop, who teaches my daughter how to bake.
Right.
She teaches her how to, do crafts and jewelry and all this stuff and paint and draw and all these crazy, amazing things.
Right.
My brain would not even have the capacity to think of.
Right. But if you want to shoot a mounted Humvee.
But if I need to teach her how to use a gun
Right.
or how to stand her ground,
Right.
I can teach her how to do those things. Right? My ex-husband is paramedic. He can teach her a lot about medical science. Right? Some of our friends are sports fans. They can teach her.
Right.
I truly believe you build your community and people will help them there. So no, it's not the school district's responsibility to feed students on a Saturday and a Sunday. But if we have the capability, could we?
Right.
Right? Where during the pandemic, or before the pandemic, we had this is a national stat, but we had 1 in 8 children went hungry. Right? That was our food shortage or whatever. It was 1 in 8 child went a whole day without a meal.
Right.
Now it's 1 in 5.
That's crazy alarming. And again,
that's not just no. I don't think that, and it's not just Nevada. That's a national. It's a national problem that we have. I don't expect Clark County to fix it.
And then another problem, though, facing the support staff, or more especially the teachers now, is with their health insurance and the Teachers Health Trust, the $45 million.
Thank goodness this finally kind of got figured out, and again, deep state stuff.
All right. THT.
I can only fix what I can have control over. I try my best to fix other little things here and there. I had a teacher reach out to me because his medication went out. In fact, actually, in that last public board meeting, it was someone that actually did not like me very much. And he had reached out to me based on the advice of a friend. And, they're like, reach out to Katie. Katie will actually try to figure it out. And within 12 hours, he had his prescription. So, and that was more so just, and I didn't even do anything. All I did was take a phone call at night.
Right.
And send a few emails during the day to the right people.
That's, part of your pork, but not everybody is watching the Johnny. Everybody watching has Katie Williams' phone number now, but not everybody's doing that. And I hear nightmare stories about people going to collections and stuff like that.
That's
doctors
terrible.
Who won't
they
see
should,
them.
and they should never. That should never be I wish I could fix that problem, but it's a big problem to fix, and I need help.
At one point, you advocated for parents to take their children out of CCSD regarding certain policies.
Oh, yeah.
You want to elaborate
I 100% did.
So tell us about that. How could you represent CCSD?
I don't represent CCSD. Okay. I never do, right? I never do. I'm not an employee of the Clark County School District. I don't represent CCSD. I represent the students and the parents. Right? Yes, some of those teachers are parents. I get it, right? But I do my best to tell the truth. If I think that and it's not CCSD.
So do you think parents should take their kids out of CCSD?
I mean, if they want to show enough change, right? If enough parents get mad, enough teachers get mad, and they all just quit, and all parents just pull their kids out in one day, money's going to go away.
Right. And you're an advocate for that.
I want people to be able to take control of their children's education. I want them to want to take control of their children's education. And that's the biggest key.
So you're encouraged by the packed school board meetings and some other people besides the regular 6 showing up.
I want people to come to the school board meetings. I don't need them to be like 9 hours long. That's a little much.
right. I agree.
But I want communities to get involved in their education and their kids' education and know what's going on. That's what one of the things I love Power to Parents. They send out their emails. Sometimes they're really good about it. Sometimes they don't. And I want parents to have a really good CCSD Parents, that Facebook page, Rebecca Dirks Garcia.
Support CCSD Parents?
No, it's like a different one or whatever. But she's not a huge fan of mine or anything like that. But what I respect about this woman is that she keeps just the information. Right there.
Right.
No opinion. She herself.
Oh, is that the supported and moderated one or something like that?
Well, she herself does not give a single opinion on any issue.
Just here are the facts, ma'am.
Here parents, here's where you can go do this.
Right.
Here's parents, here's where you can go do this. And I love and appreciate that about her so much.
And
even
there's
if she's not
few of that.
Even if she's not a fan of me.
Right.
I don't care.
Right. And even me, I try to be unbiased, but I admit to my bias.
Sure.
And like on my
well, we all have bias. That's just a thing, right? We do, right? I'm more biased to my daughter than I am to your kids, right?
I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And then as we talk about some of these LGBT issues or or big city issues, you have a large rural contingent. Are your constituents in the rural counties being properly represented?
I mean, that's not my opinion to place, right? If they don't feel properly represented,
What are you trying to do to represent them? Is your voice falling flat?
They call me constantly. Constantly is kind of a stretch. I wouldn't say that, but they call me pretty regularly, and I talk to them. I try to explain to them what's going on. They give me their opinions on certain issues, certain things that are coming before the board, and I say, okay, I'll take that into consideration, because I can't tell a member what I'm going to do.
Okay, I'm going to do that. Right.
I can't say that. Right. I
right.
can't.
If they say I hate Jara, I want him out. You can't be like, don't worry, I'm voting.
Don't
to get
worry,
him out.
I got it.
Right.
Like I can't say that. Not only is it ethically and morally kind of wrong, like it's disingenuous, right? Because I have information that they may not have, but I try my best to give them the information.
So you just listen.
I do listen,
but not talk much.
Not really, not usually when we're doing. But if they have questions, then I'll explain to them like, hey, this is what's going on. This is why this is happening, and then and most of those conversations end in, oh, I got it. Okay, that makes sense, right?
And then they know what you're saying
because they don't know, right? And
you're not telling them you're going to vote yes on the sex committee.
There's only one. That was actually a really great example. That one itself, because like community members picked those people, and then whatever, like all this stuff, right? Because there's a whole process, and they're like, we don't want this one person though. We don't agree with it. And I was like, okay, understandable, but this is one agenda item, so it's a blanket thing or not, and we legally have to appoint these members, right? So the suggestion is
if I called you up about that, you could explain that to me, and then you didn't tell me I'm going to approve that,
right?
But now the way you explain it to me, you're like, listen, we have to approve a committee, and we have a proposed committee.
Basically, that's it. Like, I mean,
but if it was up to you, what would be on the agenda? If you were the president, what would be on the agenda? What do you, if 3 conservatives won in 2022, what do you want to do? What's your dream situation? You're one of 7, and you are on an island. I mean, you might be the dynamic duo with the Democratic Socialists, but theoretically, you're pretty much on an island. Being the only conservative.
That would be hard for me to say, like, what do I want to do as president? Because, remember, conservative or not, there's an entire community that I have to, look after at that point. And just because I'm the trustee for District B does not mean that my decision is not as heavily as weighted as D or E or F, right?
And not for nothing, but I don't feel like I'm trying to push my conservative ideals on people.
No, I don't
not to
that.
you, but I just want other people. I just feel like that's best for everybody. Let's just learn reading, writing, and arithmetic.
What I would truly try to focus on is a lot of the agenda items that you've seen in the past year kind of were brought by the president, right?
Right.
If it were me, if I were president next year or year after, or whatever year I get to, because you get to serve.
Hypothetically speaking, 2022 with 3 conservatives.
Sure. I would absolutely focus truly on filling that learning gap that happened in 2020. Because
academics.
no matter what, those kids
need it.
They need it. And what's unfortunate is the ones in 2020 that fell off the face of the planet, 2020.
What, COVID?
It'll take them 5 to 10 years to catch up, if they catch up at all. Right. Academically, right? And
socially. Some of these kids, they were 5 years old.
More so emotionally. Emotionally. Think about the middle schoolers going into high school, right? 6th grade, they got out of school. They didn't spend any years with their peers, and then all of a sudden they're coming back in 7th grade to junior high.
Right.
And they're
going through puberty and everything.
And I'm like, these kids.
Right. They're all awkward as it is. Even in the best situation, they're awkward.
Our social emotional learning for our students is in the toilet.
And I think that's
our reading
probably
and
one of the reasons we're having so many problems at football games.
Our literacy rates are terrible. Idle hands are the devil's playground. That's just the fact of the matter, right? Yeah. We have this thing with soldiers, right? When we're deployed, we're keep them busy.
Right.
Right? Bored soldiers get in trouble.
Right. And, you go, I've heard that, you guys in the Navy say you ship into port, and as soon as they, right before you get off the boat, they tell you where you're not allowed to go, and you write it down, because those are the first places you're going to go.
Yeah. Bored soldiers get in trouble. That's all I have to say. It's the same thing for students, right?
Right.
They're not around their peers. They're not developing emotionally or the way that they're supposed to. Girls develop 10 years faster than boys do anyways, right? And I'm not saying that boys are dumb. Oh my gosh, people will freak out.
Right.
I'm just saying that is a fact. Right? Girls tend to develop faster than boys do, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. Right? I mean, they do.
Right.
Kind of. Sometimes. I don't know. Some
Boys
do.
and girls are different.
They are different. Boys and girls are different.
And they mature at different rates.
And they mature at
and they
different
have
rates.
different strengths
That
and
doesn't mean
weaknesses.
that a boy can't all of a sudden like mature much faster than a girl. People will absolutely tear me up. They're like, Katie just said boys are dumb.
Well,
like,
not everything's in a category. You know what I mean?
Right.
I guarantee you the most mature boy is more mature than the least mature girl.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
But in general, the girls are a little bit more mature a little bit earlier.
Right.
And then the last question is regarding when you were doing your campaign and stuff, there were all these allegations at the one particular thing that I emceed, so I know it was not a Proud Boy event.
Right.
But we were representing down ballot candidates. That's when I think, I got to know you and Mac Miller and some other people. Byron Brooks was the Regents candidate and stuff like that. So it wasn't a Proud Boy event, even though you've been accused of being a Proud Boy event. But then there were accusations of Proud Boy adjacent type stuff
I think more people are like associating like patriot parties. Right. The patriot parties or like the anti-mask
it was election
rallies
year,
or whatever, right?
Trump vote parades.
People notice that like since I've been elected, I don't go to rallies. I don't go to rallies and I don't sign petitions. I just don't do it, right? Because I just don't feel, my personal opinion, I don't feel it's like conducive to have an elected official at a rally or to sign petitions or anything like that. I think that just stirs up more animosity. I would go to listen.
Too polarized.
I think it polarizes the situation. I rather not do that. But yeah, I don't. I mean, what's the question itself? Like,
well, just because your opinion seemed to have changed, and some of the people who felt like they were supporting you during your candidacy
I'll give you a good example. So in March of 2021, I don't remember what the item was. There was an item that I had to vote on. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look at it. But someone got upset with me. One of the local Proud Boys got upset with me. Right? Of course, my phone number's everywhere. He had my phone number. And I was coming back from Utah, and I'll never forget it. I was coming back from Utah, and I got this text, and it was like, I thought I knew you. I thought we could support you. Like, that's okay. Like, so like now we just know what you really are. And he goes on and on and on and on about how terrible of a person I am. And I'm like,
over one vote.
And I tried to explain things to him. I'm like, dude, like I'm not going to come out and say this because I'm in the military still.
Right.
I'm elected, and I'm still trying to learn. This is March.
Right. You've been there for 3 months.
And it's the end of March. Yeah, it was the end of March. So it was pretty much 3 months, right? I'm still trying to learn. I'm still falling under certain laws. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not gonna sit there and just be like, oh my gosh, like do that. Like
right.
What does that do? It doesn't make any sense. But
you can't be an activist.
I tried to explain it to him. He didn't like it. He threw a big fit. He got even more angry with me. So whatever. So I was like, all right, whatever. So at that time, I called Matt Anthony, and I said, hey, what is going on with this person? Like, I don't understand.
Right.
And he's like, oh, well, I'll just talk to him.
Right.
That was.
And Matt is always pretty cool-headed,
but that was the last time I talked to Matt, right? The last time I had seen Matt was the December 31st party, and that's everywhere. I've already said that to people, right?
Said what? For those
that I was there, right? Because people were like, oh, she was there. I'm like, so? Like, yeah, I know. I was there. You're right. Sarah said the same thing.
You were where?
I was at a Patriot party. I was at someone's party, someone's house or whatever. And then at like 12:30, I was like,
was that like a New Year's Eve election celebration?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and I was there 30 minutes after midnight, and then I went home and went to bed.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, that was the last time. So then in May, I get text messages at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm asleep, by the way. At 1 o'clock in the morning of the vote to extend Jara's contract. And they're like, vote the right way. I could have done worse. I could have done this, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, first off, don't threaten me.
It was like borderline threats.
Well, that's the thing. People ask me, they're like, did you get threatened? I'm like, well, I wasn't scared. But I guess you could look at it as a threat.
Well,
sure.
If I'm on the thing and I'm like, Katie Williams, if you extend this contract, I'm going to kill you.
Well, it wasn't that. It was definitely not that.
But I don't mean that either.
Here's what it said. It said, vote the right way. how did it say? I have a screenshot of it somewhere, but like, and I'm not gonna tell you who sent it, but it says vote the right way, or I'm gonna like, or we could have done worse. And trust me, there's a lot of people that wanted me to do worse to you. And I was like, try it, right? Like, do it. And then after I voted, then I got another Facebook message from another person that was associated with these people stating that like, oh, just wait, like we're coming after you, da 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 da. I'm like, I get threatened every day.
All right.
Like, if you want me scared of you, show some teeth to it.
So this was a pebble that turned into a molehill that turned into.
And then
a
after a
mountain.
while, I was just like, screw it. I'm not going to deal with you guys. I don't need to. I don't need the drama or the stress or anything. And if you guys aren't willing to hear me out, listen to what I'm saying and what's going on, and then I don't need it.
And like you've said repeatedly to some of your constituents and stuff like that, that things work in ways that you weren't astute to.
Yes.
So as you do continue to
happens
try to
to all
promote
of
a
our-
conservative classical education, there are some things that you have to do that you just have to do.
Most of the time people don't understand that there are hills I'm willing to die on, and then there are hills where I'm not willing to die on. Because in 5 years, will that hill matter?
Right.
No, but this one will.
Right.
And that's the one I care about.
100%.
Right. And so that's why I said it's easy to get upset and emotional when things are in front of you. But what's beyond that? So that's, yeah.
All right. Well, we're only 70 minutes
Perfect.
over time.
Okay, perfect.
We could have made this a two-parter.
We could have. Let's wrap it
But
up.
people will love it. And I really appreciate you coming
Yeah.
on. I want you to come back just to learn about you. I won't even bring up Lola Brooks or Jara.
Okay.
I just want to learn about, your history and stuff like that
Sure.
and stuff like that. Any endorsements or anything for the 2022 Board of Trustees elections? You got any friends that you're talking into running?
I have a couple people that I think are going to run. I'm going to wait to see if they file.
Good. But there are some irons in the fire.
Yeah, I've been watching a couple people start to make their way out. And then again, pay attention to legislators too, county commissions. Those are just as important.
Well, we're covering that here on the
Okay,
Johnny Bruce
all right,
Show.
good.
Thank you so much for coming by. I hope it wasn't so bad.
No, it was great. I thought it was fun.
And guys, you got plenty of material on the Johnny Bruce Show from Danielle Ford's interview, a bunch of Anna Binder interviews, lots of CCSD stuff, and everything covering the evolution of CRT over the past year. You can find out all that stuff here. Also, old stuff is going to be available soon. 2 years ago, the Johnny Brew was covering the potential strike and a lot of the CCSD issues on the Vegas Take. Vegas Take?
Yeah, I do have them on.
So I found some old episodes. I'm going to be sharing them just so you guys know I've been consistent with what I believe and my staunch support of teachers, and not only teachers, but support staff and all the people that are on the front lines with our children. So thank you, Katie, for joining us.
Johnny.
Anybody, obviously, Danielle Ford, you're welcome to come on. But, Lola, Linda, Irene, all you guys, I promise you, ask anyone who's ever been on. I'm a gentleman. I'll ask you some tough questions, but we can have a discussion. Let's get to know each other. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Brookhagen, and you've been watching The Johnny Brew Show.